so that January 1, you've got the machine that will literally move you all through the year to the finish line, December 31, 2022. And that's what we're going to talk about here today. So James mentioned the manuals. You all should have one manual that looks like this, a participant manual for the business planning clinic. And you also have a smaller manual, and you'll notice it says on it short workbook. You have both of those. Now let me explain. The manual is what you should focus on today. The short workbook, you can focus on it with that if you choose, but there's a lot more material in the bigger book. And the short workbook is essentially a nuts and bolts of business planning. And particularly those of you that are new to this, I want you to think like this. Work with me through the manual all day today so that you get it. You understand the principles, you understand the exercises, you get the concepts at a higher level than if you were trying to bounce between two manuals or focus on the short manual, which doesn't have that content. When you leave here today, when you leave here tomorrow, when you've done both days, my goal for you is not that you're going to have a finished business plan, but that you will have learned everything you need to know to use the short workbook to do your finished business plan. The material originally was conceived as a 2-day workshop, 2 days. The material is essentially the same, but it's typically taught now in 1 day. So what's the missing ingredient? The exercises. So what I think you need to do is what's always needed to be done all along, which is work on the exercises after learning the material. And that's going to be the plan today. So open up your big book and go to page 1.1. I'm going to be driving a PowerPoint most of the day. I will be working some on the whiteboard behind me, but let's go ahead and open up the PowerPoint and get started. Listen to me, technology, I'm talking to you. Okay, that's not where we wanted to start. We're almost there. That's where we want to start. And right here, this is the contents we're going to get through 1 through 3, the economic model. Tomorrow we'll do 4, 5, 6, and then we'll do an overall wrap up on everything, and that'll be number 7. Right now, getting started is on page 1.1 in your workbook. If you want to go along, it would be page 5 in the short workbook if you're following that. And it asks a question, where are you today? Do you know your numbers? Are you on track for the plan you had for this year? Are you ahead, behind, or even with your plan? Some of you might be ahead on sold volume, but behind in sold units because of the average prices going up as much as they've done this year. It's been unbelievable these last 2 years about price. And they just need to get not clouded by money. You might be making more sold volume and more money, more GCI, and yet be doing fewer units. And that is a recipe for a problem down the road. Realize business planning is not about money. Money is never the goal. That is the result of the goal. And the goal is units. You don't focus on selling burgers by focusing on the money. You focus on the burgers you need to sell, how many in order to make the money you need to make. Money will not tell you the workload. I could do 10 million a year with 10 sales, or I could do 100 sales at 100,000 each for 10 million. There's a very big different workload between 100 units and 10 units, and only units tells you the workload. So you need to know your number, you need to know your conversion rates, you need to know your appointments. If you look at page 1.1, it shows you all of this that you need to think about. And the bottom line is focus on your data, your data. And a lot of you don't have your data, or you have incomplete data. Another reason why you'll work on it in the short workbook later to get a fully realized, fully fleshed out business plan. When you look at where it says where I am today, you're either brand new to real estate, new to business planning, or on the other spectrum, you have a team, you have a plan, your team follows a plan, and we got everybody in the middle. Well, today's going to be for all of you, so don't get stuck in any of that. This is for everybody. On page 1.3, it says the goals of the course is to understand the models, the 5 models. The Red Book had 4 models. We've added one, and it's the expansion model. We're not going to talk a lot about that, but we are clear that there are now 5 models. The economic model, which we'll cover today, lead gen, budget, organizational, and expansion are the rest. You're going to understand the 5 fundamental models today. You're going to have a custom plan for your business. Again, I don't really expect you to have it today because of the need for more data or to take the time to build it carefully and thoughtfully. But if you are really prepared and you're really skilled, you could do that. So I'm not going to be mad if you do. And then you're going to need to execute some kind of accountability. It says here on number 3, under goal number 2, goals of the course, peer partner. Great, great concept. If you're a single agent, particularly if you're newer, get another single agent who wants to grow like you do and work together. Productivity coach, team leader, team lead, MCA, and don't forget a MAPS coach. If you are not being coached or consulted or having somebody that will absolutely work with you every single week to stay on track is what I'd recommend. You have 3 learning goals, and I already talked about what I want you to do. I want you to be clear about why you're in real estate and what you're trying to get done. What are you trying to accomplish with your career or your business in real estate? And ultimately, that's about funding the life worth living. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how to build a plan, obviously, over these 2 days. And I think you're going to need to refocus, and I mentioned this just a minute ago, on your lead generation sources with a very different prism, a very different focus on how you look at your lead gen sources, of which for most of you, the most important is past clients and sphere of influence. And we'll talk more about that tomorrow, but I want you to understand that's the goal for me, for you. On the bottom of page 1.3, it says how you'll make it happen. Level 1, you do the business plan. Level 2, you make a commitment. And level 3, you get it fully integrated into your daily and weekly activities. And we will talk more about that as we go through the day. Models and mindsets. Models. You have heard this in this company. However long you've been in KW, you've heard follow the model over and over, right? Right. It gives you a definition here, model, a pattern of something to be made, an example for imitation, serving as or capable of serving as a pattern to be imitated. That's absolutely true. I want to give you a more involved definition because it's really apropos for what we're talking about. A business model, not real estate, just a business model, is the accumulation of the systems, tools, and people necessary to deliver goods or services with uniform customer experience. I'll say that again. A model, a business model, is the accumulation of the systems, tools, and people necessary to deliver goods and or services with uniform customer experience. Now, why is that important? Because what every business is trying to do is to create a repeat and a referral. And the way you do that is by treating people right. And when you're doing deal after deal after deal after deal, I don't care if you're selling burgers or houses or shoes or oil changes, if you're doing it over and over and over again, and you're not following systems, then you're going to give irregular service. So you will get some people happy and some not happy. So you'll get irregular repeat and irregular referrals. And what you want is regular repeats and regular referrals. And that's what the model is about. And when you think about it, there should be nothing more important to you than building the model where you have uniform customer service in order to build your repeat and referral business. And there's one other benefit of following a model which is the accumulated systems, tools, and people, right? One benefit is once you're giving uniform service to buyers and sellers, yeah, I'm thinking about selling my house, got your name from Bob at work. From that point to the closing, what happens to that seller? What happens to every seller? If you really do build it right, then what you also get is scalability. Until you have systems operating inside a model, you can't scale. You cannot scale. But when you do, you get scalability. So a model is really important for uniform customer service and scalability. You've seen these graphs before. These are not new to a lot of you. On the right, it says unstable, and we're not saying the individual agent. That could be some of you, though, I'm guessing, is unstable. But what we're saying is your business predictability is not stable. Your results are uneven. Sometimes you're really busy, but then you're dropping people in the grease that are active clients. You're not calling the sellers back with feedback. You're not calling the buyer to say there's a new listing. They're calling you, hey, I got this new listing. When are we going to see it? It's all uneven. When you build your business based on following models, and what's inside the model? Systems, tools are used to drive the systems, and people, if you hire people, then people use the tools to drive the systems. If you're a single agent, the people are still the people that matter the most to your business, even though they're not on your payroll, like a core advocate or two, or a home inspector, or a lender who makes sure you don't take out buyers who can't get a loan. Those are the realities of the model. But once you get the model in place, now you've got uniform customer service. Creativity matters hugely. In other words, on the right, we are not saying creativity doesn't matter. We're not saying that at all. But we're saying it will not give uniform service if you're always working through E or energy and excitement, but not through models and plans and written details. Creativity, the main purpose when it's on top of a model is to take market share. Taking market share in order to scale up the business. Once you're ready for volume, then you blow up the volume through your creativity. And creativity is all kinds of stuff. But we'll talk more about that tomorrow with the lead generation stuff. So look on the bottom of that page, and it shows you, those of you that had Quantum Leap or the 6 perspectives, the E to P. E to P is about having breakthroughs. Almost every one of you, and I'm just saying that, I think it probably is all of you, but almost every one of you is probably thinking about more business in 2022 than this year, right? Some of you, maybe polishing what you're doing will move the needle enough for you to be happy. But for almost all of you, it's going to require a breakthrough. And a breakthrough is going to require the addition of a system, tool, or person, a breakthrough. The most powerful breakthroughs in almost any business are people driving systems. So they're often added together, and the systems use tools. So it's a reality of you today and tomorrow to be thinking about what kind of changes do I need to make in my systems, tools, and people to have a significant enough breakthrough. Generally speaking, when you hire people, the minimum increase in your business will be 24 units a year. Admin or sales, I don't care, it'll be 24 units a year. If you're a single agent doing 30 to 40 deals a year, 36, and you want to get to 60, you hire one full-time admin, they will free you up of about 50% of the time you've been spending on all the admin work, and free you up to add 2 more units a month or 60 deals for the year. It's that simple. You spend no more time, but you change how you spend your time. When you look at having a breakthrough, it starts with focusing on what you want. What is it? You're here today thinking about a bigger year in 2022. Well, what does that look like? Is it 36 units because you're stuck at 20? Is it 60 units? Is it 84 units? Is it 120 units? Is it 240 units? What is it? Where are you at? and where is the breakthrough that you're looking for? What's that number? And by the way, it's maybe a little heretical, but some of you don't need a 1-year plan for 2022. You need a plan for where you want to be 2 years or 3 years from today. And then you simply start executing that 3-year plan, marching up a ladder to get to the promised land. And it starts with focus. What do you want? And once you know what you want, you're clear on what you want, then you have to understand what are the options. There's a model in the Red Book, right? And yet if you look at top teams across the industry, not KW, across the industry, and certainly inside Gary Keller's group, they don't all look alike. Some have telemarketing, some don't. Some have buyer agents and listing agents. Some have agents do buyers and sellers. Some have showing assistants, some don't. I mean, they don't all look alike. The question is, what are the options? And then you make a choice driven by your local market realities and your vision for your business. When you choose the options, then you ask, well, what's the model for that? What is the model for that? And then what are the systems, tools, and people necessary to implement that model? And then you work at it. A 1-year plan, a 2-year plan, a 3-year plan, and along the way, you'll get bumped, dinged, nicked. It may take you a little longer than you think, or it might be faster than you think. But either way, once you get that accomplished, you'll be on a mountaintop and you'll realize I see things I didn't see before, and that will change your new vision. And this is the way business goes over and over again. It says to think like a millionaire agent. I'm sorry, back up here on one page in your book, 2.3. The myths and mindsets about models. Mindset, number one, I don't need models. Nonsense. You can do things the hard way or the easy way. If you want to do them the easy way, where it's faster and more profitable and you have less hassle, follow models. Number two, models limit my freedom. Oh my gosh. When you follow a model, you actually save time. When you don't follow a model, you spend excess time. Which sounds freer, more open time or less open time? I think you get the point here. Number three, models are just opinions. You know, my wife and I got exposed to Gary Keller when there's less than 3,000 agents in the company. When we joined, I think it was about 3,500 or so agents in the company. And my wife and I were very successful already. We co-owned a Remax franchise, and we literally were franchise owners, so KW wouldn't talk to us. And we had decided that the way he thinks and the way he approaches this industry, we wanted to be in business with him. And the main part of that drove us feeling that was his level of focus on how does this industry work. And this is before the Red Book. But the Red Book came out of that incessant drive he has to find out what is going on and how are things working and what does the future look like and what do we need to be building now. And all of this has played out over my years in KW at an amazing pace. I mean, we're the largest in the world now from 3,500 when we joined. And my wife and I have grown also. We have locations now across North Florida. And we are honored and proud to be a part of the KW experience. And it's been amazing. But models in our company are backed by years and decades of research. MREA 1, MREA 2 research is now just ongoing. Just the data due to command, the data is so rich and so much valuable insight is being gained, and it's going to continue to evolve and change our concepts, not just with technology, but with how we approach the consumer and the relationship and the experience they're going to have when buying or selling real estate. It's unbelievable. Number four, the model won't work for me. No, it'll work for you if you work it, and that's the truth of it. And then number five, I don't need to change. I'm getting the results I want. Well, nobody is unaffected by what COVID did to the world economy and our industry. Nobody's unaffected. And the truth is, some agents are doing more business since COVID hit. And I don't mean money. I mean, they're doing more units when COVID hit than they did before. Other agents are neutral. They are ceiling down and they're working really hard to try to stay even. And other agents have lost market share. And the reality is you do need to understand things are going to keep changing. And in a world where things will keep changing, you better be working on building a better business, because you're either growing or you're dying in business. There is no neutral. If you're neutral and others are growing as a percentage, you're losing market share. Okay. So these realities are reflected on page 2.5 in terms of how you need to think. And you need to think like the MREA agent. And this is Red Book 101, think powered by a big why, a life worth living. What is it that made you get into real estate? I know my wife and I we both quit our careers and went into real estate together. And what we wanted was the opportunity to go as big as we wanted to go with very few constraints. And we thought real estate was a far better opportunity for that entrepreneurial mindset of, I want a lot more out of life than I'm getting. A lot of you know, my wife and I lost everything in Hurricane Andrew and restarted our career. This was obviously before KW was in our life. And we didn't understand it at the time, but what we went through was a quantum leap experience that changed our lives and made us refocus on what our big why was. And that literally led us to Gary Keller and led us to the Red Book and the tools and everything that we have done since then. Think powered by a big why is followed by have big goals and big models. The big models are MREA 1. There's nothing invalid about MREA 1, but there are new options, new variables to the 7 levels, and that is called MREA 2 data. And we know a lot more about the budgets. We know a lot more about internet lead generation, and Command is built to address these changes about how we approach our business. And then that number 3 is new. That used to not be part of the foundation, but I believe it's absolutely correct. And that is think value, customer service, and experience. And remember, that's only going to be done if you're doing any kind of volume, if you have a model with systems and tools in place. And then you have think competitively. That's your lure. Are you taking market share? And it's as simple as that. Are you taking market share? And then strategically, are you taking market share through increased listings, or are you doing simply more buyers? That would be much more strategic if you did it through listings, and also taking advantage of opportunities in the marketplace that COVID and or the disintermediaries in technology have created openings for. And some agents are addressing this and some aren't. Number 5, think action and accountability. Action is a fancy word for WORK. Get up and go to work. Be at work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. You'll have to work some nights and weekends too, but be at work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. If you have a team, a group, you have people, I'm sure your admin are in the office. A lot of them might be doing some remote work, and that's a change in the workplace in general. But 3 days out of the week, they're in the office. 2 days out of the week, they work remote. But the bottom line is agents, and staff are going to work better in a structured work environment than not being in a structured work environment. Not to mention relationships and communication, which are vital in a fast-paced moving business. And then accountability. Accountability is simply you have a goal, you figure out some metric to measure that is undeniable. It's not opinion, it's a fact. This metric, if we measure, it'll track our progress towards our goal. And then you track that on a daily or weekly basis at least, and you report it to someone else. And there is accountability for those numbers. And if you don't hit them, it could include up to losing your position, and it should. Number 6, think talent, systems, and standards. Talent, think leverage. Leverage. When I hire talent, I get more leverage. They do more things. They take on more responsibility. If I hire non-talent, They do less things. They do things poorly, and I get part of the jobs back that I hired them to take care of. Sound familiar? Bet it does. And systems and standards are about customer service, uniform customer experience. Number 7, think knowledge and skills. Knowledge is this, learning based. You're here. You're here. What should happen because you're here at a business planning clinic? You should take market share over the people who don't attend business planning clinic, don't come up with a plan, and don't implement it. And then skills. There's 2 main tracks of skill development that everybody should be focused on today. And that is simply technology and people. If you're a single agent, you got to get in command. You got to utilize it at its fullest. And if you're going to go and build a business, you got to hire people, and you want good people, talent people, like we said, not non-talent who keep giving you your job back. And that is about the leverage series, career visioning, 30, 60, 90, and STO. Number 8, persistence and resilience boil down to this. When you are willing to do what others won't do, you'll beat them. Period. If you're willing to work harder than they do, you'll beat them. If you work smarter than they do, you'll beat them. But if you will be someone who gets knocked down but gets right back up again and keeps fighting, if that's who you are, you'll win over time, because most people will give up with enough resistance. Isn't that what the 80-20 rule says? Yes, it is. And then think profit. Profit is the goal of business. All business has one goal, it's profit. A nonprofit has a goal of profit, meaning they have to raise enough money through fundraising to pay their bills and accomplish their mission. That could be called profit. If they don't raise enough money, they will cease to do what they're supposed to do. When you have profit, you grow the business first. When you have enough money for growing the business, then you grow your lifestyle. And then you also want to grow your wealth, meaning debt reduction and asset growth and cash flow growth. When you think about this, you want to be powered by the big why, which we talked about. The big why, it's your purpose. I'm on page 2.7 in the workbook. I'm in the workbook. If you're in the short workbook, this is page 7. It's your purpose, your mission, and your need. It fuels you with focus and energy. It powers your action. It's what the money is for. You shouldn't be working for money. You should be working for a goal related to everything you care about, and money is a tool to get that goal. I want to stop and go to the whiteboard and do a quick exercise for all of you, and it's called monetization of your why. Because the important thing in terms of the business planning clinic is that you understand how many houses should I be targeting? What is the number of houses I need to be selling to really get what I want out of my career? And this could be an agent on a team, as well as a single agent, as well as a team that works together. But everybody needs to be clear about it. And this simple exercise will help focus you on it. It's called the monetization of your why. And it is LID, your financial lid, your financial lid. The L is lifestyle. What does your lifestyle cost? And I don't mean necessarily the one you have now. I mean the one you want, but you do need to think about the lifestyle now. Add up your mortgage money, $2,500 a month. That's $30,000 a year. You've got 2 cars, $700-800 each. It's not just the payment; it's also fuel and maintenance and all that. You can quickly get up to $100,000 or more very easily on basic cost. Kids, have you got kids? Have you got kids? A lot of you know this about me. I know a bunch of you. I've been around a long time with KW, but we've got 4 kids. My wife and I just took our youngest son over to England for graduate school. We had to help him get his flat set up. We've had 2 kids in college at the same time for over 2 decades. Yeah, think about that. It's not that they're dumb and slow. It's that they like college and they do really well. It's just the opposite. So My son is getting his second degree. My youngest daughter, is working on her third degree. My oldest daughter has 5 degrees. You get the point here. But if you're a parent, what do you want your lifestyle to look like in terms of your children? What do you want that to look like? If they're talented in soccer, do you want to write the check to send them to a top soccer camp? Of course you do. If they're a talented musician, do you want them to have the finest instruction they can get so they can realize their potential? Do you want your child to feel that incredible thrill of being very accomplished at something at an early age and knowing that self-empowerment, that self-actualization that happens to them when they become achievers? These things, money unlocks. Unpaid college debt is as high as it is because parents can't pay for college, and yet they still want the best for their kids. So they tell them to go, even if the parent has to take on the debt or this child has to take on the debt. But either way, they still believe that's a key to unlock their future for them. So your lifestyle is all this stuff. It's also your faith. When they pass the plate at your mosque, temple, synagogue, church, whatever it is, when they pass the plate, do you give $1, $10, $100, $1,000? How do you feel about it? You're in real estate. If you sold one extra house a year and put that towards your faith, that's $8,000, $10,000, depending on your average price, obviously. But how do you feel about that? And what about your charities? What about your causes? You have anybody in your family die from cancer? Do you want to write checks to help find a cure for cancer, heart disease? You name it. You name it. What do you want? What do you stand for? When you look in the mirror at yourself, are you moving towards that person you want to be? And I'm telling you, money is part of the tools necessary for you to be who you want to be. Figure it out. Make the money, sell the houses so that you can have the life you want. Do you want to have a second home? Do you want to have a beach house? I've got one, my wife and I do, and we decided we would sell enough houses to get it done for our family, for our children, and our happiness and time spent together. Literally, that's why we have it. It's not to have it. It's time together. I'm going to say 300,000 here. 300K. That may or may not be anybody who's listening, but I'm using it as an example. But we are thinking big, not small here. The minute you know that number, and that's the price of a lifestyle someone wants. The minute you know that number, you look at investing, and you have to focus on investing now. Now, I don't know all of you, that's obvious, but statistically, most of you are not investing enough. You are below the bar where you ought to be with your investment strategies. I don't care if it's real estate, stocks, bonds, whatever. You are not where you need to be. And you need to start now. And the easiest way to do that is not have less money to spend. It's sell more houses, live on the money you've been living on, and put the new money into making investments. Get over it, right? Investment is not some random thing. It's actually tied to that number, because the goal of investing is what? To have the money coming in that funds the lifestyle I want without me having to work. That's the whole goal of investing. And once you know the lifestyle you want, now you know the investing. I would make an assumption of 10% return on investment. I think everybody should think about 10% or higher as an ROI for your asset growth, for your investments. The assets you buy should grow by at least 10%. That means something very simple then. If that's true, if that's what I'm going to aim for, then I know that my asset base, if it's throwing 10%, will be 10 times that number, because that would be 10% return on investment, right? So I need to get 3 million in investments. And that could be in stocks, could be in real estate, bonds, other securities. Don't do gold or Bitcoin. I'm not against it categorically, but look, you want to buy assets that not only appreciate, which gold and Bitcoin are doing. Bitcoin's having a big run right now, and gold is too, but they don't throw cash and don't have assets that don't throw cash. Back in the day, it was standard in the 40s and 50s for almost all stocks on the big board to have dividend payments. Today, most don't have dividend payments. So you need to look at asset growth tied with cash flow, and nothing does it better than real estate. For my example here, I'm going to use real estate. You need to make enough money selling houses to buy one $300,000 real estate asset. It could be two at 150. I don't care, but $300,000 of value a year for 10 years. And by the way, this is all out of the Millionaire Real Estate Investor book. There's nothing new here. I'm not inventing this. So I would do one a year, 20% down, 60K. If you were going to buy 300,000 in stocks a year, you need 300,000. But with real estate, I can get it for 60K, just 20 cents on the dollar. And that's what you should do. And then you need to get out of debt. Getting out of debt, the biggest single debt you have annually is the IRS. You also have your mortgage, state tax, credit cards. This number is a function of these two numbers added up. And the minimum amount of this is 50%. It's 50% of these two added up. If I take 360, 50% is 180. Add it up, that's $540,000. Now this is your money to spend, and realize 1/3 of it will go straight to the IRS. Straight. So that pays your taxes, and you'll have the 360 left over. Most people are going to need more money than 50%. They're going to need 60 or 70% because they're behind. Now that's the money for you. You got to gross it up. You got to add 15% if you're a luxury agent and you can make that kind of money yourself selling 20 houses, 25 houses. You still got to gross it up by 15% for your business overhead. If you need to hire one admin in order to sell 60 houses to make that kind of money, then you got to gross it up by 30%. Which will include the 15% miscellaneous overhead plus 15% for the salaries. And you just keep going up the ladder, 40% if you need a level 4 team, 50%, etc. Right? When you do that, you divide it by your income per sale, and that's how many houses you need to sell. Let's just assume that this person's going to have to sell 100 houses a year. 100 houses a year to make the money they need to make to fund their lifestyle, investing in debt. That's the one, when you get how many houses you need to sell, that's the one of a 135. And that's the first thing you do right before you do the business plan. So you need to do this, create a 135 for your business before you do your business plan. And we'll look at this more later. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. It's here somewhere. There we go. There we go. Think big goals and big models. On the next page, it shows you on page 2.9, you are looking at the someday goal, financial freedom, financial freedom. Your 5-year goal might be MREA 7th level, a 7th level business. That would be 12 to 16 people, depending on your average price, because that drives how many houses you need to sell. A 1-year goal could be a level 4 team. And that's what I described on the LID exercise. You can build that in 9 months. The monthly goal, your monthly goal every month is about contracts and closings. How many fully executed contracts are pending and how many are closing? And every month you're focusing on that. The weekly goal is appointments held and clients signed. Every week, you need to have appointments. Every week, if you're a single agent and you're new, we have incredible training. We're going to get you in Ignite and Bold, and you're going to get going. But one focus you better have is every single week, buyer or seller, I need one legitimate appointment. And until I'm having one appointment a week consistently, my business will be inconsistent. And that is the truth, right? And then the daily goal is simply contacts every day in order to get those appointments. And hopefully it's contacts daily and appointments booked. But there might be days where you make lots of contacts and don't get an appointment booked. And then the next day you book 2 appointments or 3. And that's the way it'll work with lead generation. And then right now, leads. Who am I going to call? I got to make my contacts. Who am I going to call? Every day it's who needs to be called, who should I call, and how many calls do I need to make? On page 2.11, it talks think action and accountability. I love this graph. I think it's the best graph about accountability ever. It shows you set goals, you do the activities, you measure, you evaluate, you make adjustments. If you hire somebody and they're in their 30, 60, 90, this is what you're doing every day. It starts at 8 a.m. and it finishes at 5 p.m. If you've got them out of the 30, 60, 90, then somewhere midstream, the second month, you start going to weekly, bi-weekly, 2 or 3 times a week accountability. And by the end, when you're letting them go, it's once a week, the 411 accountability session. And that's the way it works. Look at this quote here on page 2.11. Individuals with written goals are 42.1% more likely to achieve them. 42% more likely to achieve them. Individuals with accountability are 77% more likely to achieve them. Don't need to say much more, do I? I don't think so. The 411 is on page 2.13. This 411 is fine. I like it. You can see the resource, where to get it under resources, KW 411, the training applet. I prefer the one on the following page. Look at page 2.15. You've got the 4 columns. I don't have a slide for it, so I'm not going to put it up, but it's on page 2.15. And the reason I like the 4 columns is because it addresses the mission statement of Keller Williams International. The mission statement: careers worth having, businesses worth owning, lives worth living, experiences worth giving, and legacies worth leaving. Now, this tracks the life worth living and the business and the job, and that's why I like it better. If you have people in your organization, they may or may not want you sticking your nose in their personal financial, and that's absolutely okay. Nobody has to let me in. But if they want me to help them become more prosperous and maybe start making investments, I'm happy to do that, and I am. And I think in our company, this mindset applies to everybody in your organization. It's not just you that should have a career, business, and life worth living. It's everybody in your organization. So if they'll let you in, use this. Understand it's goals for the year, goals for the month, but when you get into the week, it's about specific actions that need to be taken to accomplish the goal. I'll give you a simple example. An annual goal in terms of contacts for an agent in my world would have been 2,500 contacts a year. That's 50 a week. But when you get down to the week, it doesn't say 50 contacts. It'll say 20 contacts with pipeline, meaning people that are actively in the pipeline, 20 follow-ups from open house visitors, 10 sphere of the agent's personal sphere. So the actions are very specific as opposed to just a generic number. It tells you what to do, not just what number to check, right? If you look at page 5, page 2.17, it continues step 5 in this, which is think action and accountability. There is something that James Shaw mentioned that I want to draw your attention to, and it is something that Command is set up to do, and a lot of agents don't know. The enablement team is going to have 2 different seminars, one for brand new people to Command. So you could be an experienced agent, but new to KW, or it'll be for people that are simply new to KW and don't use Command, right? And then an advanced session for people that are in Command and use it somewhat regularly. They have those 2, and these are going to be active hands-on workshops. And you have a link, I think, coming to you for you to follow up with. So you definitely want to use command, and at minimum, you can go to learncommand@kw.com to find out more about this. And if I wasn't clear, these workshops are specifically about implementing your business plan and then letting command take over and drive it for you, where you can have really quick snapshots of where you're at, where you're weak, what you need to focus on. It'll be an incredible change for most of you who've never used technology at that level. Okay, on page 2.19, it talks about the fundamental power of models. And we've got that famous triangle: leads, listings, and leverage. I'm going to jump out for 1 second and redraw the current triangle at a higher mindset. The triangle is the same. I'm not reinventing that triangle, but there has been a new thinking in terms of your big why and thinking big and aiming high. Some of you are familiar with this, some of you aren't. So we've still got this: leads, listings, and leverage. This has not gone away. Your business will be built on that. But inside this, it starts with think. This is the discussion we're having about your big why and how many houses do I actually need to sell that will write the check to pay my taxes, make investments, and give me a big lifestyle, right? This is think. Most agents that are succeeding are making more money than they've ever made. So if you were making 70, 80,000 a year, 100,000 a year, and then you got into real estate and now you're making 150,000 a year, even 200,000 a year, that feels good. That's justification. You can tell your mama and your daddy, see, I'm doing better than I ever did. See, I was smart to go into real estate. That doesn't mean it's the money you need to be making. Just because you're doing better than you've ever done doesn't mean you're making enough money. This addresses that problem that's hanging out there. So you want to think, and when you think about it hard enough, you'll realize all of you should probably be aiming to one day, remember, it's not necessarily this year, but one day get to earn 1 million GCI, also known as gross. Earn 1 million GCI. And when you're doing that, you'll be profitable. And when you're profitable, you invest profit into growing your business. If you do that, you can build a business that will net $1 million. Along the way, from when you start thinking, literally, when you start thinking clear about what you want in your future, you will start making more money and you will start investing and getting out of debt. We went over that with the LID. You'll start paying down debt, you'll start making investments, and you'll raise your lifestyle at the same time. You'll be making investments, and along the way, you'll be earning more money from your business and earning money from your investments, and you'll end up receiving $1 million. Receiving $1 million from your businesses and your investments. And then at the top, you will give $1 million. Now, I think it's a little bit of a secret that a lot of the top agents in our company are steady providers of cash for good causes. KW Cares, Cancer Society, Food Bank. I know way too many people that are really successful, but what people don't see behind the curtain is they are cheerful givers to things that they care about. Just do it. It's a joy with that money to be able to fund things that matter besides your own self and your own family. And that's the triangle that I like to look at. That's the way you need to think about why you need to do the lead gen you need to do, why you need to have the listing count that you need to have. On page 2.19, it talks about a business plan built on models. It gives you clarity on the exact activities. Fundamentally, that's the appointments. It removes the guessing and hoping. When you know where you're at every single week, you can make adjustments. When you don't know until a quarter is up, you probably can't correct a problem. It creates items and activities to which you can be held accountable. So the summary here, a business plan will, and it's all yes, help me achieve the money I need for my lifestyle. Tell me how many appointments I need each week. I would star that. We're going to look at the economic model in a minute. That number is the most important bit of research we've ever had. In the MREA Red Book and the MREA 2 data, 20 years later, the relationship of closed sales business to legitimate appointments held with buyers and sellers, that relationship is the most powerful number you can know. Number 3, help me control my business expenses. Every time I see that, I have to laugh. Well, having a business plan, having a budget, having a profit and loss will not control your expenses. It will maybe give you insights of what to control, but then you got to have enough self-mastery to stop spending money you shouldn't spend. Number 4, help me identify when and how I can grow my business. Yes, more importantly, for a bigger agent business where you've got a group, you got 4, 5, 6, 7 people, you can start to grow based on strategic needs in the organization that create opportunities for people to grow. Simple example, buyer agent tapped out doing 4 deals a month every month. They could get a showing assistant and go from 48 deals to 100 deals a year with one strategic hire. Identify your lead generation strengths and opportunities. I started the day talking about that, particularly with your sphere and past clients. And you need to really think about that. We'll dig in tomorrow on that issue. Help me determine when to hire help and save me time. That is absolute truth. Every one of those are true. The 5 foundational models in business are on page 2.21. It's very straightforward stuff. This reality is so important. The economic model is the destination. The economic model is all the numbers on paper that you want to see December 31, 2022. It's the end result. It's the destination. The lead generation model is the roadmap. How do I get to 120 closed units a year? How do I do that? Well, you could do it through sphere and past clients and geographic farming and web leads. You could do it through social media and farming and your sphere and past clients. I mean, there's at least 25 or 30 solid lead sources you could work. The people who succeed at a high level do not try to do 25 things. They do typically 3, 4, 5 things really well, and that's where they get their path to the destination. The budget model, how much money am I going to spend? How much money am I going to make? And what is my bottom line ROI? And for us, we know it's 40%. And then the organization model, who do I need on this bus? The MREA research laid it out really clear in the 7th levels of getting from single agent to net $1 million. MREA 2 research says what we already knew, but it's documented. Well, there are more variations, and they show up at level 4, and the variations start to proliferate from that point going forward, all the way to expansion, which wasn't in the Red Book, where you can have teams of agents not tied to your original brokerage, working in multiple cities and multiple places worldwide, right? And then the organizational model is followed by the expansion model. The expansion model, again, we're not going to go into today, but it allows you to work, as I said, in remote locations, but only if you've got the admin core done right. All businesses, all powerful businesses are built around the administrative core. One of the biggest problems a successful single agent has is that they're the admin core and they're succeeding with 30 to 40 sales a year at a very high level, but the admin stuff, it's a mess. They're part-time at it, they don't like it, and it stresses them. which makes it even less likely they'll work at it and get any good at it, right? So it's a serious problem. We'll talk more about that tomorrow in the org model. I want to stop and show you, before you build this business plan, you do the 1-3-5 that we just talked about at the end of the LID exercise. The LID exercise identified how many houses you need to sell to make the money to fund the life worth living. The 1-3-5, a lot of you learned the GPS or 1-3-5 as a lead generation planning tool, and it can be used for that, no question. But it's better as a business planning tool, and I'm going to give it to you. This is a level 4 team, which would be 120 units sold annually, and that will be the 1 and a 1, 3, 2, 3, 5. The 1 is systems, the 2 is tools, and the 3 is people. Now, what I'm going to draw is true for all of you. I don't care how big your team is or if you're a brand new single agent. All of you will look like this 1-3-5 with some variations, and I'll explain it. So number 1 is the systems. And what's the point of systems? Uniform customer service, right? Number 1 is the lead gen system. Number 2 is the seller system. Number 3 is the buyer system. Number 4 is the financial system. And number 5 is the growth system. The lead gen system is a 30-day wheel. The most common problem with lead generation is lack of consistency. People do stuff, it works, they get busy, they stop doing stuff. It's consistency. The 30-day wheel basically says on paper, every month we will do this once a month, this twice a month, every other week, this every single week, and this every single day. And that happens no matter what. You set those in motion, the marketing stuff, all through command, smart plans, campaigns, all done easy, very straightforward. The seller and the buyer system are finite, meaning they have a beginning and an end. And what is extremely powerful about that is you design the experience they have. You design it. You want to get fans, build an experience that step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, all the way to the closing table. I know exactly how they're going to be treated, and I'm checking off that it gets done. This is what all powerful agent businesses do. One of the main things about Admin Core is that they build a powerful consumer experience. The agent's out running on another deal. They're chasing deals. They're not chasing the customer experience post their piece. And that's what the admin team is for. You've got to understand this systemization of your customer service is the fundamental way you get to scalability. So the seller and the buyer system are finite. And then the financial system is like the lead gen. It's a 30-day wheel. Every month we got money in, money out. We compare our expenses, a profit and loss statement, to our budget that we set. And if you're a big enough business, you check the balance sheet as well. And then you have the growth system. And the growth system is a linear system like the seller and buyer system. It has a starting point and an end point. You need to hire somebody. You're going to design the job description. You're going to throw the net, blah, blah, blah. It ends up with somebody being hired and then through their 30, 60, 90. And after that, it's STO. This is the leverage series. It's already built. And all of this stuff is run through command, right? The tools are to do one thing, and that is to drive systems. You've heard this in KW. Your business is your database. So command is the most important tool you've got by far. Command. Number two would be the websites and landing pages. And in Command, you can have multiple websites, multiple landing pages. Number 3 would be the app. Number 4 is collateral material. Collateral material is all that stuff that's used to educate, persuade, and overcome objections. A selling guide for 2022, a buying guide for 2022, an investment guide for 2022. If you're really on your game, you'll be preparing these and getting ready to send them out, and you can send them out through email to all of your past clients in the sphere at the beginning of the year. I wouldn't do it all at once. I would launch the year with your selling guide, and then 2 weeks later, the buying guide, 2 weeks later, the investing guide. And each one of those precipitates a phone call, right? Relocation packages, wonderful things to put out ads for inbound, in-migration in your community. It's an easy way to get leads, very, very cost effective in Command. Ads on Facebook, Google, not expensive, generates leads like crazy, but you gotta have the package, right? You gotta have the package. 47 things to get your home ready for sale. I could go on and on and on. By the way, the books, the MREI book, the flip book, the whole book, the one thing book, greening your home book. By the way, they're rewriting Your First Home. That's another book. All the books are collateral material. The bottom line about collateral material, and hear this, it starts or creates conversations or supports conversations to conversion to appointment. That's what it's for, to get appointments, bottom line. And then number 5 will be a target. A target. And a target would be a tool you need for one of your systems. Like if an agent says, I'm going to do video on YouTube, I've decided to do that. Well, they're going to need a digital video camera, digital editing software. They're not going to do video. They don't need those tools, right? So it's a targeted tool, and everybody's probably going to have some targeted tools. And then the people, remember, this is a level 4 team. It's the agent plus 3 other people. Number 1, the agent at level 4 is the CEO and the listing agent. They have admin 1, whose job is systems. They have admin 2, whose job is marketing and lead gen. They have the buyer agent, and then they have a MAPS coach. Now, if you're a single agent and you're staring at this, this is for you too, with a little tweaking. Your goal here should be 36 units a year. These systems are the same, except you don't have the growth system because you're not hiring anybody. The tools are going to be the exact same thing. And then the people here, it would not say CEO listing person. It would just say agent, because you do everything. Number 2 and 3 could be core advocate 1, core advocate 2. These are the people that are most important to the agent's business world, right? So if you have this team, these people are the most important to you in your business world. But if you're a single agent, it would be a core advocate. It could be a lender who makes sure I don't take out buyers who can't close. It would be a property inspector. But you figure it out, who are the 3 people most important to your business, and then a MAPS coach. Flip it the other way around. You got a level 6 team, large team, 300 plus units a year. This is all the same. This is all the same. This is still 5 people, but now it would be lead operations person or operations manager. It would be the director of sales over all the agents. And then it would be the director of lead generation. Those 3 people and a MAPS coach. Now, why would it be the same thing for all of us? Single agent team doing 300, 400 deals. Because we're all doing the same thing. If you're making burgers and you got a 2-person joint, or you're selling burgers out of a grill, servicing tailgating at a ball game, or you have a restaurant with 50 employees, you're still doing the same thing. And that's why it looks like that. Okay, let me go back to the PowerPoint. That's your 1, 3, 5. And out of that comes the business plan. All right, get back to the current slide. So, So you run through these models and you create your business plan. And now we're going to take a stop here, and hopefully we've got some questions. We'll talk about ahas into action or questions. What do we got? I think we've been collecting some. Do we have anything?
Gene, hey,
Hey,
this is Jake, Raleigh, Tampa Bay.
hey, Jake.
Hey, I was going back to the lid exercise for monetizing the why.
Yeah.
Just see that as super powerful as like the starting line to be
Yeah.
able to get the business plan created. You had mentioned, I heard you do that before. This time I heard you mention about having that be part of the percentages, and those percentages associated with, where your debt is to where your business is and how much you wanted to make. I kind of lost it at that point.
Sure.
So real quick, I mean, I've got everything else in there for the lid. Just how did those percentages work that you were speaking of?
Sure. Well, whatever money you need to make to fund your lifestyle, the investing, if you're going to use the MREI model, you need a 10-year acquisition phase and a 10-year payoff phase, right? And I'm using real estate investments. So you would need to get the down payment money, and the down payment money was $60,000 to buy one $300,000 property at 20%, right? Then when we got to the debt, that's where I said debt is a percentage of those two numbers added up. So we had 300,000, 60,000, 50% of that is 180. You add it back to the 360, and that totaled the $540,000. Does that make sense now?
Yeah. No, thank you for that.
Yeah. And realize 50% is just barely enough to pay the IRS. A lot of people don't realize how much money they need for debt. They need a lot of money. Okay. Other questions, comments?
Hey, Gene, we got a question from Slido. When planning your first business planning retreat for a small team, what should the agenda look like?
That's a really great question. All businesses start with the mission and the vision. So if you look at KWs, it's a great thing for you to emulate. So the mission would be for your team to all have careers worth having. And I think a great exercise and lives worth living. I think a great exercise is to literally work on your team MVVBP together. Just work on it, put it together. And there's nothing shameless about copying the KWs as a really good template and then tweak it. But when it gets down to the individual, let's just say you have a level 4 team and you have a buyer agent. The buyer agent should be thinking about their career worth having and of course their future and their life worth living. So their life worth living might be in 3 years, I want to buy a new home for my family and I'd like to pay off some debts. And I'm going to target selling 36 houses this year as the buyer agent, but I want to be selling more than that. So the following year, I'd like to do better. Well, the plan for that would be to get a showing assistant and move the needle from 4 a month to 8 a month or 96 for the year. And that person this year then would have to take career visioning 30, 60, 90 and STO as a part of their plan for 2022. So by the end of 2022, if they're hitting their sales goals, then the team will support them in hiring that showing assistant. And I said, the team, realize if you do that, what does the admin have to do? It's not, nobody's working in a silo on a team. If I tell you as the rainmaker, yep, you're the buyer agent, yep, end of this year, as long as you get trained, you can start looking for, and then next year have a showing assistant. Well, if that's going to mean doubling their volume, then guess what? The admin team has to create enough leads to feed the buyer agent to close 100 deals, not 50 deals, but 100 deals. So the admin is involved. The admin's got 50 more closings to manage, not just 50, but now they got 100 closings to manage. So the rainmaker's got to realize, hey, we're going to need to hire another admin to handle these extra closings and to handle the extra lead gen. So everybody at the retreat should be working together on the goal for the business driven by you, the rainmaker. But then everybody has their own wheelhouse to come up with, well, what is my vision for the next 3 years? Where do I want to be? And then they build their own plan to get there. And this is true of the admin side too.
Okay, Jean, we have another question from Slido.
Slido, my good buddy Slido.
At what production level do I determine if I need a breakthrough or mastery coach?
Well, if you're in coaching now, and I'm assuming that in that comment, that should be the dialogue with your coach. I've had MAPS coaches for a long time. I've had them for a short time. It's about fit, but if you're sitting there with your coach and you're thinking, this isn't getting me where I want to go, then you need to do breakthrough.
I have a question. I don't know if I'm allowed to ask now. Hi, Jean.
Uh-oh.
Hi, Jennifer Young. I have a quick question. How do you determine increase in units or GCI goals? So we have a team that's rocking, but something I struggle with a lot is what should our goal be next year? Like in a year like last year, we were pretty profitable and moved some of those profits over to our lead pillars that are working in good ROIs. And I think we can do 100 more transactions next year if we just go deeper in our database is our big push for next year. But I'm kind of making up that number 100. And, at that level where you have a team, how did you establish unit goals or increase GCI goals? Did you just work backwards based on net income goals? I know Gary has said before. Any other strategies or advice there?
Well, the LID exercise is working backwards from income goal, right? So that is doing that. It's like, how much money do I need to take home to write checks for my life, right? So you start with that, and then you got to gross it up by your business overhead. It is the same process, but you can think about it in a different angle. And that is, you said, I want to do 100 more units. Well, understand that's lead flow for appointments for 100 more units. So you need at least 200 more appointments, 200 more appointments. Now, where are you going to get 200 more appointments? What's that implication in cost and manpower? And if you think about it, the reality of the 7th levels is what? Every level you go up, there's more people. Yes or no? Yes, there's more people, right? It's not the same number of people. It's always more people, more people. So the bottom line is all the work gets done by people. So if you want to do 100 more units, the real question is, and Gary has said this forever, it's always going to be a who question. Okay, who's going to do this? We want to do another 100 units. Who's going to do this? If my current agents are all doing 35 to 40 each, they're doing 3 to 4 a month each, I'm not going to get 100 more units out of them. It's not going to happen. Or they'll have to give up a life worth living. And we should never be about that. Never be about that. Remember, they can get a showing assistant and get you another 50 units, right? So it's never about overworking people. It's about how many people do we need to add. And if you simply look at it, Jennifer, the chart itself just says graphically, well, there's about as many admin as there are agents at every level. And that's absolutely true. There are economies of scale. And when you have talented people, sometimes a virtual assistant to help them will do. You don't have to go hire another full-time in-house person, but don't lose track of the site. There's another person working here now that didn't work here last year. Yeah, they're remote, but there's another person working here. So if you need 4 more people, you're going to need 2 agents with boots on the ground, but the 2 admin could be full-time admin, or they could be assistants to admin that you've got. You have to make that determination. But
Thank you.
Yeah, all I'm saying to you, it boils down to something pretty simple. You want to do 100 more units, you're going to need 4 more people.
Hey,
What
Gene.
else?
Hey, Gene. It's Trey Cooper in Atlanta. And
Trey, Dr. Dan, how you doing, my man?
Fantastic, man. It's always so awesome to hear you. My biggest takeaway always is to focus on units, not real big luxury deals.
Yep.
I get distracted by that. And I just think that is like so awesome every time I hear you talk about it. And then the importance of the admin core.
Yep.
I feel like I'm always, I just want to think abundance as it relates to the admin core. And so those are 2 things that really stood out. They always stand out to me. And the last long term is to acquire $1,300,000 property a year. Love it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, thank you for those ahas. I really do appreciate that. That is spot on, young man. If those are your ahas, you're listening loud and clear. I appreciate that.
I feel like it's the blocking and tackling of real estate. Yeah.
That's right. That's absolutely right. All right. If we're done, unless you've got any more, is there one last one, Joe, or are we done? Joe's my marshal. He's my question police.
We could do one more.
Okay.
Goal setting to the now, is that spelled out in the MREA?
Is that what?
Spelled out in the MREA.
Is it spelled out in the MREA?
Yes.
It is not spelled out in the way I think the questioner is asking, but the goal setting to the now literally starts with leverage. If you add a system, tool, or person, you better be clear about what it is you need to get in 30 days. And then what do you need to get in 60 days? And then what do you need to get in 90 days? All progress is done daily and weekly. Daily and weekly. So when you talk about goal setting to the here and now, when you hire somebody or you put in a system or a tool, you better see the 20% of what you got that person or system or tool to do, that's happening in 30 days or less. It literally has to be happening. Or what's going on? I mean, what is there any training at all? Is there any accountability at all? Is anybody using this tool? We got this fancy tool here to do internet lead generation. Is anybody using it? Because we're not getting any more internet leads than we were getting. What's going on here? So I think this idea about speed and haste is really important. This goal setting to the here and now, it's about everything. Right now, if I said to all of you, okay, the thing you need to do next week, all of you, is take one more listing than you've ever taken in a week. So if you've taken 6 in a week, get 7. If you've taken 1 in a week, get 2. But go get one more listing than you've ever gotten in a week. Can you do that? Can you do that? And if you can't do it next week, when can you do it? What does it take you to do it? And understand, I'm not doing that frivolously. I already told you, I think what you all need to do after tomorrow, going forward for 2022, by January 1, you better have cleaned up and wrapped your arms and spoken to all of your MET database. You need to be sending out those selling guides, buying guides, investing guides. And some of you need to send out second home buying guides. People are buying a lot of second homes right now. And then you need to be thinking about what leverage you need to add, systems, tools, or people, and getting that added or at least underway. And then the last one is the listing count, which is why I use that example. The listing count, you've got to get your listing count built up to more than you've ever had at the start of a year. More. I don't mean 1 more, 5 more, 8 more. Build it up. Build it up. And a lot of it is conversations now, and they'll give you the listing at the end of the year for the beginning of the year. Get it done. Okay. All right. Let's go back to the PowerPoints and follow up with the famous economic model here. All right. So the economic model on page 3.1 in the workbook, and if you're in the short workbook, it's page 10. But 3.1, it shows you the economic model. Remember, I discussed this. The economic model is the destination. It's the numbers you drove all year long in 2022 until New Year's Day, and you're staring at those numbers. This is a look at the numbers right flat out of MREA 2. This is all new data, relatively speaking, from the Red Book. The Red Book numbers compared to the MREA 2 numbers. So if you look at the top, we've got the $1 million net. That's the same. You've got 2.5 million total GCI. It was 2.4 million in the Red Book. We've got 750,000 operating expenses compared to the 2.5 million. That is 30%. In the red book, it was 700,000. So expenses have gone up. The total cost of sale is the same, 30%, and that's also 50,000 higher. And the total income is $100,000 higher in order to net the million. So there's where the money was spent in cost of sales and operating expense. Look at this. The average income per sale was 7,150. It was 7,500 in the red book. So there's been a hit in the amount of yield per closed transaction. Doesn't matter if it's buyer or seller, there's been a hit in that number. And then the total units sold is 350. In the red book, it's 320. So what are we saying? There's more work to do to net $1 million today than there was 20 years ago. Isn't that interesting? Because the average prices are higher today than they were then. Now, here's a flip side to this. I said this data is relatively new. This data is tainted in that it's pre-COVID. We still had higher prices than we had in the red book, but there's something going on in your world that you need to pay attention to: commission-ectomy and lowering of income per sale. If you look at the sell side, it says half of the business is sellers and buyers. Now think about this. The red book was 2 decades ago. There were agents who were netting $1 million, and when all of their data was studied, they averaged half sellers, half buyers. Go 2 decades forward, there's a restudy of people that are netting $1 million, and they're still, on average, 50% sellers, 50% buyers. There's only one way that happens, and it is intentional and purposeful. And we need to remember that. If you're a single agent and you're buyer-based, which most are, and I don't mean heavy, just 60%. If you do 30 deals a year, if you're going to do 30 deals this year, and 60% or 18 are buyers and 40% are sellers, and that's 12. Imagine if you flipped that. If you flipped it and had 18 closed sellers and 12 closed buyers, your work week would have shrunk by 20 to 25%. Same units, same income. You save 1 or more full days a week of work. Now, does that matter? You better believe it matters. It matters in life worth living, and it matters in your ability to go take market share. And understand this, when you are buyer-based, you are keeping your competitors in business. You're doing all the hard work to get the home sold, and the listing agent is getting all the credit for it in the marketplace. And you did it, and you're keeping him in that neighborhood. You're keeping him in business, and you've got to get out of that. And that's why I'm preaching what I'm preaching about, going and getting listings like crazy. The number of sellers you need to sell is 175 because it's 50% of the 350. The conversion rate of 70%, which has been identified, means 250 seller listings are needed, meaning the conversion was an active listing to a closed listing. And then from the appointment conversion rate of 75%, it's 333 seller appointments. On the buy side, same thing, it's 50%, 175. Conversion rate, 250. Lower conversion rate at the appointment to buyers listed, so you need more buyer appointments, 357. The bottom line is this, and I said this earlier, all progress in business is made daily and weekly. It's not monthly, it's not quarterly, it's daily and weekly. If you want the ship to go in a different direction, you got to start turning the wheel. You got to start changing course. And if you're not pulling on the wheel, hour by hour, day by day, you'll never get the wheel turned. You just got to do that. And Gary and Jay famously show this every mega camp, and they always point to the bottom left. This is the most important focus. Somebody asked earlier about, goal setting to the now. The most important goal to focus on is seller appointments every week. And all of you, single agent, Teams, all of you should have one seller appointment a week, minimum, every single week. Until your lead generation is capable of generating that, you are going to be inconsistent in your ability to create and take market share, because that's what it's taken from, is listings. When you look at this on page 3.3, this is what's actually happening here. Number one, performance. Performance is how well you apply your skills, behavior, ability, and resources to produce revenue. I would tell you, but think about behavior as something very simple. Habits. Habits. What are your habits? What are your habits? Somebody's mentioned the One Thing book. We know about habits, 66 days. We know that bold typically peaks performance for agents. Agents who go through bold will have an increase in productivity while they're in bold. And then a period of time after bold is over, their productivity normally falls. Now, what's up with that? I mean, bold is not that complicated, right? You practice some stuff to say, you work on your mindset, and you get on the phone and you say it, and woo, business goes up. Is it that simple? Yeah, it is. What's the issue? The issue is bold probably doesn't last long enough. If it lasted for 6 months, maybe people's behaviors would permanently change. Another way to think about this, though, is bold works to a large degree for more than just accountability. And a lot of people say it works because of accountability. And that's definitely a big part of it. But it's more important than that. It's you show up at the same time, in the same place. You do the same practice. You do the same activities. You are tracking your numbers. You are held accountable. And then the day ends on time. And if you add all that up, what that is a productivity specific environment or a focused work environment. And when you work inside of a structured and focused work environment, almost everybody performs better. Almost everybody. On the other side, it says investment. And I love this, investment of time. And that should be no more than 40 to 50 hours a week, unless you're going through a growth curve. So if you're a single agent, you're hiring your first admin, or if you have a team and you're hiring an agent, you're going to have to keep producing the sales you've been producing, but somebody's got to find the time to throw a net, screen resumes, go through them, have interviews on the phone, interviews face-to-face, and then pick candidates to go through the actual process, probably 10 of them. And then you end up making a hire. And none of that can interfere with the productivity that's been going on before you decided to hire somebody. So normal business operations, 40 to 50 hours a week, that should be the maximum time. Cost of sale, 30%, operating expense, 30%. In the middle, and this is what is documented through that economic ladder, gross commission income and net income. Gross commission income is 100%. You take out those two investments, and then the net income is 40%. Nothing radically odd about that. This 30, 30, 40, this is documented and redocumented and redocumented. We're going to look at some budgets tomorrow, and you're going to realize that most people, I know this will shock you, are not hitting 30, 30, 40, but enough people are at every level, at net a million, all the way down to single agent, that is doing some volume, 20 to 25 or more. Enough people are doing 30, 30, 40 in all markets for us to know it's actually doable. The question is, why don't people do it? And we'll talk about that tomorrow when we look at it. If you look at page 3.5, right there at the top, it shows you an example. The $1 million total GCI, that would be gross $1 million. In other words, take out 300,000 operating expense, 300,000 cost of sales. That's 400,000 net income. Now, if it takes a level 14 to sell enough houses to make that 1 million GCI, and that's true in a large part of the country, you got to be at 300 to 325 or $30,000 in order to get to gross $1 million at 100 to 120 units. So if that's true, remember that the agent in that is the listing agent. So the agent's take home money would not be the 400. It would be the 400 plus the listing income, because they're the CEO owner. So they get the 400, but they're also the listing agent. And if they followed the model, if it was 50-50, then they would have over $500,000 of take home, which would be their pay for work as a listing agent and the profit of the business. When you look at the bottom part of that, focus on net income and profit. You can look at it from the net million model, which would be 1 million net income. This is doing the same thing in reverse from what you're looking at. The net income model would be 1 million at the top plus 750 plus 750 equals 2.5 million GCI. You've already looked at that. Look at the bottom here. This has caused trouble. This has caused trouble. This is the same numbers in the economic model, 2.5 million GCI. It's got an error message there. Okay. It was a 50-50 business. You remember that? So it's 1.25 million on the listing side, 1.25 on the buy side. The listing cost of sale was 125 or 10% of the 1.25 million. The buy side was 625,000 against the 1.25 million, or 50%. 10% versus 50%. The cost of sales, the same, 750 operating expense. Now here's the trouble I mentioned. People read the book, they saw that chart, they looked at that number and said, okay, buyer agents get 50%. No, they don't. No, they don't. What is happening here is there's one listing agent who produced the closed sales business, which was 175 units. There was 350 total. They produced 175 closed units. One person got paid 125. The buyer agents, there was 5 of them, averaging 35 deals each, totaling 175, but one of them was the lead buyer agent. And the compensation is typically 10%. So the buyer agents get 40%, not 50, but there's a leader who is paid a 10% bonus. So the cost of sales is 50%, but it is not true that buyer agents get 50%. Now, a lot of teams do look like this and they are getting 50%, but that's why the listing has to be kept down to 10% in order to get to the average of 30%. If they're all the way up at 50 and they want to be at 30, then they've got to get the listing side down to 10 in order to get to 30, right? Okay, that's painful too, because when you've built a team wrong and all of a sudden you wake up and you got 3 buyer agents and they're driving you crazy and you want to hire one more and one of them will be promoted or the new one will become the lead, and then you realize you got to give a bonus. It's the devil to pull that 50% back from those people. It can be done, but it's not easy. Okay, there are 3 drivers on page 3.7. There are 3 drivers on the economic model: leads to appointments, appointments to signed agreements, and agreements to close transactions. The leads to appointments creates a question I hear a lot. So how many leads do I need? And I have an immediate answer for that. I have no idea how many leads you need. I have no idea, and I don't. What I do know is this: if you're hitting your appointment goal every week, you have enough leads. If you're not, you don't have enough leads. And I'm really not being glib. The truth is there are market differentials about how many FSBOs you've got or how many expireds you've got. There are huge differentials in what is the quality of your MET database. Is it full of people that you did transactions with? Or are these people whose business cards you collected at Chamber of Commerce functions or at Rotary meetings, but you really don't do business with those people? There's too much variation for there to be one number of leads people need for every closed transaction. Nobody knows. And on top of that, there's differentials in performance, meaning I might be worse with FSBOs than you are, but I might be better door knocking a farm than you are. So there's too much variation. But we do know that consistent lead generation will be able to produce whatever number of appointments you need if it's consistent. That's the most important thing. And it's not just the initial, it's the follow-up, follow-up, follow-up. So when you look at this, it shows you the listing appointments were 75% closed to the listing taken and then 70% sold. By the way, these numbers in the last year have all been changed. We don't have the data to know exactly what. We will know by the end of the year, most likely, but this is a high state of flux our industry is in, along with restaurants, along with retail, along with lots of businesses. But we're figuring this out on the fly here. The bottom line on conversion rates, though, if you're not getting 70% or better on all your conversion rates, appointment to client, client to closing, if you're not getting better than 70, you can improve. And the three places you look at to improve are, number one, the quality of the lead itself. So whatever lead source you're working for, the bulk of your leads for any one source, if they're not producing well, then it might be the quality. You might be going to the wrong place, right? Number two is the quality of the presentation itself. So you have two presentations if you're a 20%er. One would be the pre-listing presentation for a buyer and a seller. It's a package that they get through email, snail mail, or delivery prior to the appointment at the table in your office or in their home. And then it's the presentation at the table. And both of those can improve your conversion rates. And then the third thing is follow-up, 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 follow-up. Those three issues are the key problems with conversion rates that are below. Knowing what your conversion rates are is obviously fundamental, and you improving your actual success rate. So here's the economic model. We've talked about this a bunch. This is nothing new to a lot of you. This is pretty straightforward stuff. Do think about the simple realities of these numbers if you're a single agent. So when you look at these numbers again, clicking those up, if you're a single agent, you're sitting here thinking, well, this is not for me. That's not true. I want you to go and move the decimal point. Move the decimal point. So it's not net 1 million, it's net 100,000. It's not 750,000, it's 75,000 operating expense. It's not 750,000 cost of sales, it's 75,000. And it's not 2.5 million GCI, it's 250,000. The average commission amount would stay the same. That doesn't change. Now, again, you should put in your own average commission amount based on the average sale price that you do and the split or the percentage. And the total units, move the decimal point to be 35. So if I left the commission amount the same and move the decimal points on the rest of those numbers, I have a single agent model, economic model for 35 sales, where the average net 40% to me is $100,000. So you've got it if you're a single agent. If you want to do 100 units a year, you'd simply move the decimal point and then multiply by 3, and that would give you just over 100 units, and you've got the model. Now, when you look at the sell side and the buy side, just go down this, move the decimal point. It would be still 50% seller sold because the business should be 50-50, but it would be 17.5 total sellers sold. It would be same 70% conversion rate, but 25 appointments were needed. And then same 75% appointment conversion rate and 33.3 seller appointments needed. On the buy side, same thing, all the way down. So it's 17.5 buyer listings sold, same conversion rates, 25 buyer listings needed, and then 35.7 appointments needed. And obviously, you're going to need to round up on anything that is not dead on even money. And just round up, because you want to round up for safety, right? And then what's the bottom line here? Every week, you need a minimum of 1 seller appointment. Every week, you need a minimum of 1 buyer appointment. That will actually produce more business than 35 units. Because if you had 50 appointments on one and 50 appointments on the other, that would be 100 appointments, and that should produce about 50 closed sales. Is it a good thing or a bad thing to have more appointments than you need? It's a good thing. Here's the problem. If you don't think of 1 appointment a week, but you think of 1 appointment every 2 weeks, the work to do 1 appointment every 2 weeks is different than 1 a week. And if what you need is between 1 a week and 2 a week, you've got to go to the 1 a week. I'm sorry, 1 a week or 2 a month. You've got to go to the 1 a week. Consistency in lead flow, consistency in behaviors. You really have to focus on that. If you were going to short anything, I'd short the buy side. I would absolutely focus on the sell side. And in fact, if you got 1 seller appointment a week all year, that would be 25 closed sellers. And the buyers, I would pick and choose what buyers I want to work with and get to 40 or 50 deals a year by getting buyers who are only hyper motivated to do the deal, right? And a lot of smaller teams that get this, or smaller agents or single agents who get this, do look like that. They are seller based, and it's a minority of the agents, but the ones who get it, that's what they end up looking like. Now, you're going to need to put your own numbers in your model, but before you do, consider this on page 3.11. This is the 500,000 net income model, and this is taken from real numbers, but there's some interesting things to look at here. The average commission amount on these people was lower. So there's a problem there. And look at the number of sellers sold. It was 73 versus 109 buyers sold. Total units is 182, but there's way too many buy sides. So what they're showing you is real world, but the hope here is for you to understand where the problem or pain points are for this agent's business. And this is not any one agent. This is an average of people that are at about 500,000. So I think it's pretty obvious. They've got some issues with the 65% sold on the buy side. Now, real world, what's the truth? The last year or so, we've had a lot of buyers struggle to actually get to a closing table. So a lot of offers have been made. Some buyers said, I can't take this anymore. We've lost 4 houses. We're just going to renew our lease. I've seen that in our own agents. It's real world. It doesn't mean it's acceptable. There's a large percentage of opportunities to chase in the marketplace, in any marketplace. And what I'm really saying to you is this: we are going to finish this year with probably a top 3 by units in the history of our industry. This is a very big year. It could be better than that, but it's probably going to be around that point. That means there's a lot of listings taken in order for the buy sides to get bought, right? So if there's close to a record number of listings being taken, and realize we're losing listing opportunities to the disintermediaries that are out there buying homes. And I don't know if you heard, but Zillow actually this week has announced they're not buying homes currently. They're ceasing for a time period. I'm not going to get into why, but that's what they're doing. But the point is, they've been buying houses, Open Door, all kinds of local and state businesses have been out there disintermediating us from our potential listings. And that's another reason why you've got to get out there and work your Met database at a very high level. You've got to build a moat around them. You are losing business not just from the Mets themselves listing with you, but from referrals that they normally would get and send to you that they're not getting because they're not talking to their friends about it, because you're not talking to them enough about it, and they're getting picked off by the disintermediaries. We'll talk more about that tomorrow with the lead generation plan. So notice on the bottom of page 3.11, it reminds you, you can download an economic model spreadsheet that will auto-populate. So you can play with these variables, put in what you think yours are, see what the numbers result in, see what, if you improve one, what that would do, change the average income per sale. You can play with all of it. And there is also tied with that a budget model, which we're not going over today, but obviously this is part of the budget, these income numbers, and we will go over that tomorrow. On page 3.13, it talks about some economic traps to avoid. Number one, not understanding the power of the economic model. The economic model is the most important of the models because it sets up all the activities that you're going to do. It sets up how many people you need to have, both admin and sales, and it sets up how much marketing or lead generation you're going to need to do. You use it in two ways: to check where you are and as a planning tool. Exactly. Not using the economic model as a guide to decision making. I can't agree with that more. And during COVID, a lot of people were reacting to what was going on in the market and were not retooling their economic model or their business plan for that sense. And it brings up another point here. I mentioned earlier today that some of you, and I said it might be heretical, but some of you should be working on a 2-year plan or a 3-year plan, not a 1-year plan. And you should start making the hires and doing the systems and the tools and do it for the next 3 years and beyond that march. In the same sense, in the other direction, when COVID hit, everybody in April, when March, everything started to shut down, everybody in April should have looked up and gone, my business plan, tear it up, it's useless. We got to rethink everything. And you should have. And if you had, you probably would have been able to take a lot more market share, because the people early on who said, you know what, I bet we can figure out how to sell houses digitally. I bet we can figure out how to keep consumers safe. We can show houses virtually. We can do deals virtually. I'm going to figure all this out. I'm going to start some marketing materials, and you could have gotten more market share if you'd have gotten on it earlier. I do think that we have a chance on some changes in our economy coming. I'm not sure what, but it's been a barrel of monkeys for the last 2 years, and I think something's coming. We're all waiting on COVID to get under enough control that we consider it in the rearview mirror. If we can get to that point, then we'll get some economic stability, and then we'll start to see where we literally stand. And one of the biggest issues is inflation. And there's a great deal of uncertainty right now about how much of the cost of living going up is related simply to short supplies. The supply and demand are not in harmony, so it's driving prices up. And if the chain of delivery could be fixed again, and we could start to get more normal inventories on all kinds of goods and services, right number of people to work in businesses, right number of products on the shelves, would prices then go down again? Nobody knows. But if we do have any of these things happen, it'll change again. And I'm telling you, you're going to need to rethink your business plan at that moment. You're going to need to rethink it. Obviously, if rates start to go up, you're going to need to rethink it. Not looking at your business as a whole, and that's really critical. We had a discussion, I can't remember the person's name, but we had a great discussion about, well, I want to do more units, 100 units. And I said, well, you're going to need to look at the impact on the admin and realize you can't just say, I'm going to have my agents do more sales. you're going to have to look at your admin and say, you got to generate more leads. You got to do more transaction management. You got to do more listing management, more transaction to close, more customer service. So we got to grow on both sides. If you want to grow on the sales side, you need to grow on the admin side. In fact, one of the biggest mistakes a lot of businesses make, and let's just be blunt here, I'm talking about agents. One of the biggest mistakes in building a business is they'll hire more agents than admin. And I've seen team after team after team, 4 agents, 5 agents, 6 agents, 2 admin. And what do you hear about? The agents are always complaining, they're grumbling, leads aren't that good. I got to do a lot of paperwork because the admin's overloaded. Well, it was all very predictable up front. It was guaranteed to happen. You've got to understand that balance is demonstrated just graphically in the 7th level. So you got to look at it as a whole. Anything I change on the admin side is going to change on the sales side. Anything I change on the sales side is going to impact the admin side. Not knowing or improving your conversion rates. I know there are some of you that are really, really good and you're at 80% conversion. You go to an appointment, 80% of the time, buyer, seller, you list them, 80%, 90% of the time you close them. I get that. But if you want to keep growing, there'll be a point where you'll be diving into stranger business. You got to start farming or doing internet leads or doing open houses or whatever. And the minute you do that, the odds are high your lead conversions will drop. So be cautious about assuming really high lead conversions are going to always happen no matter what. Number 5, not holding yourself to your goals or having someone else hold you to the goals. And that would be, in my mind, the big pitfall is not having accountability outside of yourself. And then not knowing how much lead generation is required to secure the appointments needed. Well, I already talked about that. I don't know that you can answer that question other than, do you have enough leads to get your appointment goals hit? So that boils down to a weekly reality, right? So you want to grow your business, you got to have 100 more appointments a year. Or I'll use the example that we were talking about, 200 more appointments here to get 100 appointments closed. That's 4 more appointments a week. If you were doing 4 appointments a week, now you need 8. You're only getting 4. You've got to start building on the lead gen you're doing, or, and this is the hard part, or you got to look at the lead gen you're doing. Let's say the bulk of it was past client and sphere, repeat, and referral. You got to look at it and say, well, how much business can I get out of that group? And we'll talk about this tomorrow. But if you are at standard for the business you're getting, then you're only going to get minimal more business with more and more focus. You're probably going to have to turn and get a different lead source altogether and then work it really hard and intently with the admin and the agents. And that will create change in your business. And growth and change normally involves this. There's something you're doing, you need to keep doing, and maybe do more of it. There's something you're doing that you need to stop doing, and you have to figure out what that is. And because you stop doing something, you'll have the time and ability to start something you're not doing. And having breakthroughs is literally about this. Something keeps going, something stops, something gets added, and then we grow. And you keep moving like that in business and getting bigger and bigger. And then number 7, not using the economic model to create the other MREA models. And all that really is saying is they need to be harmonious. They need to reflect each other. And then on 3.13, leverage technology. Again, you have these training sessions that are going to happen with the enablement team from Command, which is exciting. Okay, let's go to page 3.15. Whoops. Your economic model. Now, this is telling you, look at the top, this is telling you your actual economic model. I don't think it says it clear enough, but what you're going to need to do is have in mind where you are and where you want to be. And the where you want to be would be the end of 2022. The where you are is where you're going to finish this year. So what you need to do is if you haven't done it already, you need to do a reconstructed economic model for the year to date, and then start tracking it as you finish the year. Have the economic model you want for 2022. And you need to really be looking at those and realizing the adjustments you're going to need to make. The number of appointments is often a big shock for people when they say, well, let's do 100 more units. They don't think through about, well, you're going to need to have 4 more people and you need to do, 4 more appointments a week. Will the lead sources we have feed that? Maybe yes, maybe no. But you need to be staring at those inconsistencies or incongruencies and starting to make the adjustments right now. If you got to hire people, you have to get after that now. If you haven't heard, it's hard to hire people right now. So you really have to get after it. If you've got to change a lead source, you got to figure that out and get after it, because it takes time to get certain lead sources cranking. And if this is you, if you're sitting there thinking, I want to go a lot bigger next year, you need to understand you're almost always going to need to focus on prospecting, because prospecting can be done and can have an effect weekly. You can change your numbers to the positive significantly through pure prospecting. Again, this is what bold is. Bold shows to you, if you talk to more people, you'll do more business. But if you have a business that's already full of busy people, well, how do you add talking to a lot more people? You got to hire more people. It's that simple. You got to get to work. So it's got the exercise on page 3.15, the instructions on how to do what we've gone over 3 times now, the economic model. What I'm telling you is, don't just redo the model. Don't do that. Get your numbers together and fill it out as the numbers are. Are you going on 2 times the number of appointments, closed sales, 3 times the numbers? Are you doing more buyers than sellers, etc.? What is your average income per sale? You gotta really do a reconstructed economic model for yourself for this year and finish it out, and then compare it to, on page 317, it says your pro forma, your actual goal for 2022. So understand, this is this year, this is the end of next year. You got to be moving your business activity into that by January 1. By January 1, or you're going to start the year looking like this year and not looking like you want next year to look like. This is not easy, what I'm talking about. This is a challenge, but this is literally what you're going to have to do in order to get this done. Okay, ahas into action. Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't talk about the 411. Let me back up here. The 411 on page 3.19, we have the 411. Now, again, this is the one that we started with, but the 4-column one is the one that I would go to. But what it's showing you is how you move your goals out of the economic model into the 411. The 411 has the annual goals, the monthly goals, and then you see the weekly goals, listing appointments, buyer appointments. I would add to that the instructional where you go. So where it says listing appointments, if the goal was 2 a week, it might be 1 sphere/referral listing appointment, 1 for sale by owner appointment. You get the point. The weekly on the 411 should direct the action, tells you as their direct report what activities they should be working on this week. And then if you're using the 4-column one, you will be tracking across the board, the job and the personal financial and the personal. Okay, so now we have ahas into actions. So let's talk about what's on your mind. Let's talk about questions. I have a feeling there might be a few here. So
Okay, my question is,
yes,
I know we have to follow this, so we are following it based on the conversions, listings sold. Like in this market, the listings sold are usually like 90% of the listings are being sold versus 70%. Do I
Yes.
put that adjustment in there, or do I just close my eyes and just say, no, go with 70% and be surprised pleasantly?
no, you need to use your conversion numbers.
Okay.
And I made the statement, and I'm going to say it again right now, but be very careful about assuming this is going to go forward, right? Just be very careful about that. So pay attention. In the country right now, there is a clear trend that's starting for markets to be a little cooler. But a lot of those markets that are cooler, it simply means they're getting 3 offers instead of 14, but they're still selling really quickly. But you've got to keep watching it. We are living in a time of the market of the moment. And it may not feel like that, but this all is less than 2 years old, this COVID thing, and it's changed everything. And as I mentioned, this could change in the other direction more quickly than you think, but it'll start slowly and then it will speed up. What else?
Hello, Gene. It's Steve Parker from Hoover, Alabama. How are you?
Hey, fine. How are you?
I'm doing well. I think one of the big ahas that I had, and we have been really deep on the economic model, working with our team, and we've been consistently above that 80% on the listing conversion. And I really like what you said, and that we have to keep an eye on that as we continue to grow and we're stepping out into the stranger world, that those conversions are not going to be as high, or not likely to be as high. And so we really have to track that on a higher level so that we know we're hitting appointments, our appointment goals that are going to hit us on the number goals, because that's going to change weekly as we do go into listing appointments that are not met.
I think that's absolutely true. Your conversion from listing to closed sale might stay high, at least for the time being. And that's a really good comment, but the actual achieving the listing, there's so much competition now. I mean, you're competing with these disintermediaries that are making them offers, no agent, no fees, no commission. We don't think about it like that, but we're competing against them like we would another agent. And there's some really heavy value propositions they're laying down that we have to fight against. And you need to fight against those really hard right now, even though you don't have a listing appointment. And we'll talk about that with the lead generation tomorrow, but we are not doing a good enough job fighting back. We're not.
Hey, Gene, this is Ken Pletsky from Tri-Cities, Washington.
Hey,
back to you. I'm good. Thank you. Back to the 411 comment. You made something about are tracking the appointment sources a delegated, directed thing, or are they? Is that what you meant? Like when you were talking about on the 411 listing appointment opportunities?
Yeah, well, if you have an admin or a agent, right, and you're doing lead generation, and this is kind of what's going to typically be on the 411, right? You're going to have a plan about we're going to do 100 sales, and 50 are going to be sphere and past clients, and 25 are going to be internet leads, including social media, and 25 are going to be geographic farm, whatever, right? Or FISBO, right? Whatever. So that's going to mean every week we need to be talking to sphere, internet, and geographic farm people, right? And those will be accumulated into a total number of contacts for the year, number of mail that goes out, number of phone calls, number of door knocks, right? But then it's going to be assigned to people. So some people are going to be assigned to do the farm, some people are going to be assigned to do the internet leads, and some are going to be doing this, and everybody's going to be doing the sphere. So when you get down to the week, everybody's got to know, okay, this week you need to talk to 2 of your sphere, you need to talk to 5 of those internet leads you've been working on, and you need to talk to 20 of your current pipeline people. right?
So it's tracked in the week section.
In the week section, you track how they're doing on their total number for the week. My example was 50, but you also track how are they doing with their sphere cultivation, their farm cultivation, and their pipeline, right? You got to know where they're dropping the ball. Where's their problem?
Okay.
Right.
All right.
And then and only then you can fix it. But when they turn in, well, my goal was 50, I only did 40. Well, you don't know is the problem that they couldn't get a hold of the FSBOs because they should get a hold of their sphere, but maybe it was their sphere they couldn't get a hold of, but you can't help them with a solution if you don't know where the problem is.
Yeah,
Right.
Makes sense. Totally makes sense. Thank you.
Yep, sure. What else?
Jean, hi. This is Nasla in the Texas area, Houston. How are you coming up with the cost of sales?
Well, cost of sales, that's a great question. Cost of sales is a bill that you owe for your business that is normally, now this might vary in some states, but I don't think it does, but it's normally paid out of the broker's checking account. So you make a sale at the closing, there's a check cut to your broker and your broker's name, because in most states, legally, all sales are done by the broker, right? So that check is the GCI, the gross commission income. It floats over to your broker. The broker says, well, Gene Rivers sent you a referral for this. We have a contract on that, and it's signed by both brokers. So this is a legal bill you owe, and we're going to pay it for you out of this money. You have a buyer agent who also did the buyer that Gene referred to you, and you owe that person money. You have a binding agreement with that person, and we're going to pay that money for you too. And then what's left is what you get. Now, in some areas, the broker might actually take what you owe the broker out of the money that they have also before you get 1099 income. But whether you pay the broker off the top or you pay the broker after the fact, after you get 1099 income, classically what the broker gets is a cost of sale. But generally, the easiest thing to remember is a cost of sale will be a bill that gets paid out of the broker's checking account, not mine. Does that make sense?
It does. So royalty would be cost of sale.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And this is not to throw a twist, but for the single agents or for the agents that are anything but level 6 or 7, if you're on the street doing deals, you should get paid the appropriate cost of sales as well. And a lot of agents don't do this. They just take it in the bottom. And I get it, but you got to understand, if you take a listing as the rainmaker, you take a listing and you don't pay yourself whatever your split on a listing is for anybody on the team, 10%, 20%, whatever it is, then you're going to actually show a lower cost of sales for the licensed work than actually happened. In other words, you did the work and now you're not getting paid for it. So it's going to look like your cost of sales is lower than it actually is. And this is one of the biggest issues in business planning for agents, is you've got to make sure that you pay yourself per the model, but not above it or below it, but at the model. And that's the only way to find out, are you making a true 40% or not? There are some agents I've talked to that pay themselves a salary, and I get that. I've been paid nothing but a salary every 2 weeks. For 30 years, from our very beginning, my wife and I have gotten paychecks from the business. And those paychecks, for a lot of agents that do that, are above and beyond what they ought to get paid for license work. So they're getting paid for admin and license work. And now when you look at their results from their budget, it gets all mixed up about, well, how come we're only making 20%? Well, because you're taking 20% profit in your big fat paychecks. So you're taking profit as pay when it's not really pay, it's profit. And this is not a right or wrong thing at all. It's about, are you trying to compare your budget to the MREA budget? And if you are, then you've got to code expenses accurately. And when you don't code expenses accurately, comparing your budget to MREA won't make any sense. And it's all the agent's money, right? Whether you get a paycheck or a broker fee for being a listing agent, or you get a profit payment, it's all your money. So you're not going to lose any money. The question is, how do you pay yourself? And are you in the guidelines of what the pay should be? I hope I made that clear.
I don't know, Gene. This is Melissa in Tampa. I don't know that you did. So what are you suggesting if you should just be paid as a single agent? What is it that 30%?
Oh, yeah, it's very simple. If you're a single agent, realize you do all licensed work, right? So forget any other expenses for a moment. So all 30% would be your pay.
Right.
That would be in the budget, whether you had a large team with listing agents or buyer agents. The most you should spend for licensed activity is 30%, right? Now, you're also the admin, right? You're also the admin, and the admin, MREA 1 was 12.2% of GCI. MREA 2 data says as high as 16 or 18, but 15% is recommended. We'll look at this tomorrow. So in theory, you get the 30% cost of sales, you get the 15% for the admin salary, that's 45%. That leaves 15% miscellaneous expense. Added up, that's 60%, and the rest should be the 40% profit.
Got it.
That makes sense?
It makes perfect sense. Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's the way to actually compare your bottom line or not, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, so your business expenses are anything that we calculate in our profit and loss for tax purposes, whatever it is, like the photo shoot, like whatever.
Whoa. Yeah, but hold on 1 minute with that statement. It's important to really understand this. If you have an accountant or CPA, they are never going to look at your financials the way MREA looks at them. They're not going to look at it that way. Your accountant is only going to care about your 1099 income, your taxable income, and your expenses, right? Where do we start with the MREA budget? With the GCI, which includes the money that the broker gets that goes out as referral fees, right? Your buyer agent, your listing agent. The accountant doesn't care about any of that. You know, they care about your hard expenses, payroll, not agent money, but admin payroll. And they take that out of the taxable income and they tell you that's the money you made. That's your percent. Well, that's not the way we look at it at all. So be careful about what your accountant does. And I hope everybody hears me. We're not talking about two sets of books. We're saying that your accountant will do a legitimate bona fide tax return that reflects expenses relative to taxable income. And we know we have expenses and cost of sale like royalty, like cap, like buyer agents, like referral fees that are never taken out of taxable income. They're taken out of the income before that. Does that make sense? So, yeah. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to make that clear before you went down a rabbit hole.
No, it was okay. I just want to see where would all my listing expenses go. It's going to go on my business expense in the MREA.
Yes. So, listing expenses. Yeah. When we look at the budget tomorrow, you're going to see that they've actually expanded the category of marketing cost. And there's a separate category now for listing expenses.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. What else? What's on your mind?
I have another question, Gene. This is probably, I think we touched on it. You were talking about when you're at a certain level as an agent, and who you should have in your organization. But my question is, with the cyber world and with the pandemic, where does a virtual assistant fall into the model, if it even does? Because that's a big thing now. Everyone has a virtual assistant. It doesn't matter if they can do the work.
Well, yeah, of course it matters. I mean, that income should be, I'm sorry, that expense should be reflected in your payroll. But there's a real issue here about hiring admin that are virtual over full-time in-house admin. Help is good. Help is good. If you hire a virtual assistant, if you hire a part-time assistant, if you hire a runner, if you hire people to help you, if you hire a transaction manager, you know, an independent contractor that you pay $400 to that processes your contract to close, all of that is help. And help is good in business, particularly when the help is taking over what is relatively low dollar per hour work compared to an agent's potential income if they go get another listing instead of processing a contract to close it, right? But the issue is, do you want growth or not? Because what part-time admin do, what virtual assistants do, is they give you business stability and not growth. If you hire a full-time admin person in-house, they would give you the same business stability, but they give you growth on top of it. And they give you growth for two ways. Number one is customer service. Your virtual assistant is not going to typically be directly interacting face-to-face with your client. They're not going to be going over to the house and taking the brochures and asking them, are things going okay? Here's your new brochures for the listing. Are you getting our monthly reports? And are we treating you the way you think your family members and friends ought to be treated if they too were thinking about selling? And now you're soliciting referrals because you have a live body person interacting with your clients, right? Virtuals are not going to do that. The other issue, and is it Nausea?
Osla.
Oh, Nasla, I can't read that, print that small.
It's okay.
Yep, Nasla, when you hire a full-time admin person, they should be told in the interview period while you're doing career visioning with them that they're going to bring their database to your business and they're going to put in their names and you're going to be marketing to them, because I'm sure as my new administrative leader, you're going to want my business to grow so that you can get more volume, so you can get more bonuses. Well, you need to help me do that by let's market to your people too. So if they have 200 names at the current conversion rate in the nation of about 7% of homes are turning over, that's 14 sales a year from their 200 Mets. And the ratio of referrals and internal business are equal. So there's another 14 referrals also. So their 200 names have 28 opportunities annually. If you only got, 10 of those, that's 10 more deals you never would have gotten without that full-time hire. And you'll never get that out of virtual assistants ever, right? Yeah. So you got to think about where you're trying to get to. So if you're a single agent and you're doing 40 deals a year and you just want some help because you're working too many hours, but you don't want to grow any more than that, then the virtual answers it. But if you want to get to 60 deals a year or more, you need to hire full-time admin and get the relief and get the growth.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Nazla, a really good one. What else?
Gene, hey, Jake and Corelli here again. What I hear you saying there is monetizing that admin role, and so that the role itself is bringing in the income to pay for the role.
Absolutely.
And at that point, that's where that growth can happen within that role.
Well, it happens, number one, more client contact and interaction. What does BOLD teach us? The more we talk to our sphere and clients, the more business we do. So if you're going to be an agent busy out there getting new business, they can be doing the interaction and getting the referral business, right? But it's also their Met database. Their Met database. You can get, remember, internal turnovers right now in the nation are about 7%, meaning 7% of households are now exchanging hands, deed transfers. But there's always an equal number of referrals as there are. If you remember the Red Book, it said there were 2 deals for every 12 Mets. And one was a Met themselves buying or selling, and one was a referral from a Met. outside of the database, right? So it literally says it that way. If you look at the red book, it says there's 2 transactions for every 12 METs in a MET database. So if you had 600 METs, there'd be 100 transactions out of that MET database, half the METs themselves moving and half referrals from the METs. So anybody you hire, you bring in, they've got business in their database sitting there for you.
Are you also then looking at possibilities of bonus reward on that if they're like driving some of that from that admin?
Well, no, they're going to be driving it. They're going to be making. Think about this: when you clearly get what I'm talking about, right? So what would be their 30 days of a 30, 60, 90? What do you think that looks like? Day 1, I want you to bring 10 names of people that you know, past clients of yours. If you were a hairdresser or you were whatever, your friends, family members, neighbors, bring in 10 names and bring in their data, the data that you've got. And we're going to sit down in front of our CRM command, and you're going to put those names in. And you're going to put in the data you have, and you're also going to look them up on Facebook through our business Facebook page, and you're going to friend them, and you're going to put a posting on our business Facebook page saying you're so excited to announce you've joined the Rivers team and you're working on the Rivers team and blah, 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 right? And then you're going to get on the phone and you're going to call them, and we're going to practice a script, and you're going to say, hey, Sam, I've called you to let you know I've moved now. I'm no longer cutting hair. I'm working with the Rivers team in real estate, and the Rivers team has 5 value propositions. I want to send you some materials, and one is the 2022 prospectus for residential real estate in our market area. It'll be coming off the presses in December. Going to send it out to you. And then I'd like to follow up with a phone call and get some feedback from you, and also find out if you know any family members, friends, or coworkers who might be talking about moving in 2022, because we certainly love to help them. And it'd make me look good to my boss, wouldn't it, if I brought some business to the business? So they're going to put in 10 names. And if they have 200, like I said, that would take 20 days, or the first month, they would be making all 200 of those contacts and using that script. And guess what's going to happen? Your appointments are going to go up. Your appointments are going to go up, and that'll happen within 30 days of that first admin hire joining you. So if appointments go up in the first 30 days, what should happen in the second 30 days? More appointments, because they're doing more contacts, and now you have clients writing contracts. And then what happens in the third 30 days? Closings. More contacts, more appointments, more clients in a pipeline, and closings. So your business is doing what? It's going straight up, straight up. And this is from the simple strategy of understanding the power of database. Other questions? Guys, this is your time. We left aside for questions and comments. We have a panel to get to, but I want to make sure we don't leave any stones unturned.
So Jean, thank you so much. I would just love to hear your perspective on hiring great admin talent who's also currently in business doing their own sales. Like when you see talent, you want to scoop them up. I'm just wondering what your experience has been. Should it be strictly like go out and get somebody who's exclusively an admin and or a virtual assistant? Or if you see talent right in front of you that you'd love to work with that is in the business, should I avoid that? Just curious what your experience has been on that.
I get what you're saying. I mean, we will routinely, you, me, anybody in business is routinely going to run into people and think, oh man, I want to be in business with this person, right? But what career visioning, if you've taken the leverage series, what career visioning says about that is you start to build a pipeline and you get to know them. You offer to do a personality assessment with them. And when they do a KPA, it won't necessarily be a job fit, it'll be the personal, but you'll sit down and verify. You should know what their traits are in terms of what opportunities you might have coming up. And then you can let them know that, can I keep in touch with you? Because frankly, I think we could be in business together at some point. I have a couple of ideas based on this assessment now that you verified and told me, yep, this is you. I have a couple of ideas. I'm not ready yet, but would you be interested in staying in relationship so that one day I can make that call and say, I think I'm getting close. Can we meet and talk? And that's literally in CV. It's about, that's how you build a pipeline. You do not want to hire people out of order just because you met an amazing person. So you also don't want to hire people that can't fully commit, because that's not going to win either. And a lot of agents hire people that are out of order. Like, I met the most amazing agent, and I can't believe we went to the same school and we know a lot of the same people, and he's going to be awesome on my team. And that person's next hire was scheduled to be an admin, and now they're hiring an agent and not the admin. They bring them on board because they're weak on admin. There's not enough leads. There's not enough support for the agent. The agent ends up leaving because they're frustrated about the team's not that good. Does that make sense? Hiring out of order or hiring somebody who can't commit is not a recipe. But you don't walk away from them. You park them and stay in relationship and follow up. Invite them to your parties, get to know them personally, right? If you live with people, do you get into a higher relationship with them? Yeah, pull them into your world. And you'll either end up getting closer to them, and if you are, they're getting closer to you, so that when that opportunity comes a year from now or a year and a half from now, they're much more likely to want to do it.
Stick to the model. Thanks, Gene.
And you couldn't have teed that one up any better. That's right. Stick to the model. It's just a simple little idea, right? What else? What else is on your mind?
Gene, I got one question on the economic model. As I'm coaching our agents through this economic model and their own lids and their business models, I'm really living, just on the one side, that buy side, and structuring it all based on whatever our team compensation model is to help them achieve their goal. Anything else I should be looking at there? I mean, that's where we're living. Anything else I should be looking at?
I must have missed something now. You're talking about buyer agents?
Yeah. So as we're coaching the agents on our team to the economic model,
yeah,
we're just living on that one side with them and their goal and their models. We're not looking at this from the full team perspective at that point.
Right. Right. Well, except if you use the 4-column 411, it's got job, business. The business will either be the total business side of the agents, in other words, the buyer agent team aggregate, or it'll be the aggregate number of the total team. So people should see how their job plays a critical role in the business goals. And that's what that business column is for. But again, if you have a big enough agent business, like the net $1 million example was 175 closed buy side. So if you had 5 buyer agents, you'd want them to see that this team you're on has 175 units as a goal, and that's 350 appointments we need to have. And your goal is to have 70 appointments and 35 closed sales as a result of those appointments, right? So they can see how they're doing and how their team, their side of the business is doing every single week. And it's accountability, right? Either they're doing the same, worse, or better than the rest of the team is doing. And it's really good that they see that. They need to carry their water.
So you're saying then we're going to have that, just the buyer business is going to be in that one column, and then the job is them and how they attribute just to the buyer business separate from that entire listing business.
Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely. If the business is big enough that it warrants it, like if it was a level 4 and you hired your first buyer agent, you just have the team goals, and they've realized they're responsible for all the buy sides of the team goals, right? And it's true on admin too. Every one of your admin is responsible for contacts, right? Every one of them. Their own sphere, which we've been talking about, their own sphere contacts, but then also if they're the listing manager, they should talk to the sellers multiple times a week. You have 100 listings for the year. It's literally thousands of contacts on the admin side that need to be done. What else?
So Jean, Melissa again from Tampa. So question about, like, I'm looking at my business plan that I did this time last year versus looking at what I want to do for next year. And I'm sure I'm like everyone else, is that my average commission has gone up a lot.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, well, it is nice, right?
It is nice.
Then you start thinking about, like, what does next year look like? You know, do I look at what has been historically kind of average, or take this crazy appreciation market that we've experienced?
Well, I'm going to answer your comment, but I'm talking to everybody here. We all collectively need to stop talking about crazy prices. We literally need to stop it. And it's not me saying that per se. Gary and Jay at the last national event, Mega Camp, and prior to that at Reunion, all virtual, but they show the graphs and charts. They always show. And if you look at where pricing is right now, if you look back 30 years, you'll see that at a 4% trend line, which we were on for over a decade, and then starting in 2000, we went above the 4%. We peaked in 05 and 06, and then we crashed and went below the 4% trend line. And we literally have been climbing out of the big collapse, bottoming in 07 and 08. We've been climbing out of that for 13 years.
Well, agreed, but we've climbed out of it pretty fast in the last 12 months.
Well, but where we are right now, if you extrapolate that, prices are right now where they would have been had the entire time been at 4%. So there's a strong argument that where we are is parity. We're back to normal with pricing. The question now is, does this continue going up? That's the question, right? And there are two things that back this up, Melissa. Number one, where is the affordability index? How affordable are houses right now? And the fact is, the affordability index is very favorable to buying, which is one reason we still have a lot of people trying to buy a new home, even at, quote, these prices, because of interest rates where they are. They're very affordable. $400,000 house, about $1,800, $1,900 PITI HOA. That's very affordable. Right. So that backs up the fact that these prices are not high. They're affordable for the average American with these interest rates, right?
Agreed. However, if you look at where we were last year and looked at average commission versus this year average commission, right? We've had a large appreciation over the past 12 months, right? Yay, for sure, right? You know, so so I guess what I hear you saying is that if we really are where we should be, then the number that we're at this year is probably a very safe number to use for planning next year.
Well, yeah, let me ask you a separate question. How do you feel about the local market? Do you think prices are getting ready to go in reverse? Or do you think they're going to hold?
No, they're going to hold here, I think.
Well, there you go. You just answered your question.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Yep, sure.
Armina again, one more question.
No problem. We're here to talk.
Okay, so you were talking about LID. Do I get this LID number, which is it my future lifestyle or is it my current lifestyle? Do I get that number from?
No, you want to plot your future. What do you want your lifestyle to look like? Now, I don't mean 10 years from now, but in the next year, 2 years tops, what would you like your lifestyle to look like? And you may have to readdress your goals, but there's nothing wrong with you plotting a lifestyle that would take you 2 or 3 years to build to that income. But you got to have a target. A lot of agents approach business planning. I mean, I've talked to people for 20 years on this, and they'll approach it like, well, last year I had an 18% growth in my business, and this year I'm going to shoot for another 20% growth. And I'll ask them, well, how many units are we talking about? Well, last year I did 15 units, and I ended up with 18. And this year I'm going to try to get to 21. And I'm thinking, really? Your goals are to add 3 more sales over an entire year? That's the best you got? I mean, that's not really focusing, right? I mean, any agent who wants to grow should be growing by a minimum of 1 closing a month. That is not hard to do. I'm not saying it won't take work, but it's not hard to do if you have a plan and you follow it. It's that simple. If you have a plan and you follow it, you can, whatever you're doing, you can add one more unit a month. There's a training program for single agents that was written after research in our company called 36-12-3. And it's a free download to KW agents if you're a single agent. And it stands for 36 sales in 12 months with 3 hours a day on lead generation. And it's a series of manuals. And you're supposed to go through those manuals. The first one is about getting organized and getting your head on straight. And then you read each manual on a lead source that were the top sources for single agents when this study was done. And most of them are very much the same. And then you're supposed to decide which one or two are you going to focus on most, and then you go back and you implement them. So a single agent should understand your potential, your business potential has been identified as 30 to 40 sales a year and 40 to 50 hours a week with 3 hours a day spent on lead generation on average. And that has been done by too many people for us to not know it's doable. There are two issues to get that done, Armin. And the two issues are, number one, a single agent to keep their work hours to 40 to 50 max. They need to be seller-based. They can't be buyer-based. So if you're going to do 30 deals, it can't be 60% buyers. That's 18 buyers and 12 sellers. You got to flip that. So if you did 18 closed sellers and 12 buyers, you can easily do that in a 40-hour work week, right? So you got to do that. And then the second thing is you got to focus on probably 2, no more than 3 lead sources and do them really deeply, really well. And that will get you where you want to go. The goal is not to do a lot of lead sources a little, it's to do a very few really, really well, really well.
And can I hire a full-time admin for this level?
I certainly would. Absolutely. Remember, hiring an admin is about your growth plan or it's about your income. Okay. So if your average price produces the revenue, we're at 25 sales, you can afford a high quality admin, absolutely hire them. Get relief, increase your customer service, blow up your business if you want, right? Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure, of course. Those are good questions.
This is Mika Wilson in Atlanta.
Hello, Mika Wilson.
Hello. We were talking about conversion rates, and in this market, listings properly priced are selling. So conversion rates are really high.
Right.
Just stick with, like right now, I have a 100% conversion rate. Is that what I should stick with, and then just pay attention to it quarterly? What do you suggest on that?
Yeah, I wouldn't do 100%, but I get where you're at. I would definitely do 90%, keep it very high. But at the same time, I would keep and you're saying this, you keep your eyes open, just pay attention to what's going on. I remember Gary has said this many times. He said, sometimes we're failing so slowly, it feels like we're succeeding. And what he's saying is if the market is literally shifting right now, but we're all still busy, we all of a sudden might wake up one day and go, what happened? Things are really different. No, it's been trending down for a while. Then all of a sudden you get one event like an interest rate gets increased and then things go quiet, right? But it was slowing down prior to that, right? Just like our sales history right now, Mika, things were already short supply before COVID, right? We had problems getting inventory for buyers before. And sellers were not taking long on the market. Right. But nobody saw it coming. But after the initial collapse when COVID hit, things exploded, right? But they already were trending the way that they trended. It just sped up a lot.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, anything else?
I have one last question.
Well, you might have one last question, but I hope it's not the last question. I hope y'all understand in the audience here, a lot of what's powerful about this is all about mindset. This is about mindset about your business, your market, your growth curve, getting yourself organized in order to have a powerful business plan for 2022.
So with your first hire, your admin, can you combine your transaction coordinator with that first hire, or should you keep them separate? If you're doing
No,
okay.
absolutely. Yeah, if you hire the right person, they're going to think about what your first admin hire is going to do. They're going to take over all the admin work that you used to do. So if you have already started outsourcing your transaction management, you want to capture that back in-house. So they're going to do that. I don't know your volume, but a typical single agent, again, the goal is 36 a year. So if you're doing 3 a month, that's for a full-time transaction manager, somebody who's really capable, they can do 10 times that. They can do 30 a month. So for your admin hire, 3 a month to manage is not a big job. So they can manage that. They're going to manage your listings, right? They're going to be your marketing person. They're going to be your systems person. They're going to be your financial person. They're going to do all of the admin work that should be done at a high level, but a busy single agent is part-time at all of it because they don't have the time to do it. It's not a personality defect. It's a time problem. You don't have the time to do it, right?
All right. Thank you.
When you hire them, you want them to do everything. And again, that's to help grow your business. Your independent contractor transaction to close is not going to be asking those people for referrals for you. They're not going to be trying to convert a closing buyer or seller into a referral resource. They're just going to focus on getting the transaction done and do a nice job of it so nobody's hollering at you, so you'll keep hiring them to do the transactions. But they're not going to use your scripts. They're not going to send handwritten notes thanking them for the transaction. Your person, your employee will do that.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Gina, I have a question.
Okay.
It's clear that administrative support is extremely important. Can you help us understand where do you recommend finding administrative support and talent?
Yeah, that's a big challenge right now. We're hiring constantly. I mean, literally for 3 years now, we're hiring constantly before COVID and after, longer than that. I can tell you in CV, we're told that the most expensive hire is proven talent, right? Proven talent. People are already doing the job, and those are hard to get right now. You pay top dollar for somebody that's proven talent. On the other end, it's potential talent, right? Potential talent. And in the middle is emerging talent. And what you want to look for, in my opinion, right now is college graduates. Recent college graduates. People, you're in Atlanta, you have several universities or colleges there with schools of business. I would get a hold of the job placement office of those universities and tell them you have an opportunity. You want a graduate from the School of Business with a degree in marketing or public relations or communications or advertising. You're not that picky, but it needs to be some kind of business degree where their specialty would have a high value to you and your business. And those people will be the least expensive that they're going to be. I'm not saying they'll be cheap, but they'll be the least expensive they're going to be. And they will normally bring a lot of energy. And here's the important thing. If you hired a graduate from a school of business from 10 years ago, who's got 10 years of experience, that sounds good. And it is good, generally speaking. But what a graduate today is taught is that business is an internet-based activity. So they're trained today that marketing is internet. Marketing is Facebook. Marketing is YouTube. Marketing is Google. 10 years ago, they weren't taught that. They weren't taught that. So if somebody got out with the wrong skill set for today's reality and they got 10 years of experience, not in today's reality, that doesn't help me. That just doesn't help me. And the number one thing you want to see on their resume, even though they're a fresh college graduate, is CRM, that they've done contact management, that they have experience with running a database and contact management. And today's business school graduates are all taught that. They're all taught that. right? So that's who I'd go after, Trey. Find the job placement office, volunteer to do internships, because that's a great way for you to get a college student and by the way, they have to do internships normally, and you can try them out, right? You can find out how much you like them, how good they are. And they're usually very affordable as interns.
So there's a little bit of a limiting belief that people that are really young or fresh out of college might change jobs every year or two. Is that something that you worry about, or do you think you can retain young talent?
I think you can. I think you got to hire right, and you got to have the right opportunity. But if you have a growth mindset about your own business, you're providing opportunity for them. And if you have a mindset of a flexible workspace, because I think that's more about what they like, is more flexibility. So, and I mentioned this earlier, having a 3 days in the office, 2 days out of the office at home workspace, I think that actually can attract somebody, right? I think you can get this kind of person for that. I have a client who's got a brand new college graduate on board their team in Austin, Texas, and they are just crushing it, doing a fabulous job. I mean, young does have some blind spots, I mean, they're not mature necessarily from a business point of view. So they got some, but I still think talent is talent. And the issue is hiring talent, not experience. It's talent. Experience with low talent is not helpful, right? Don't worry about don't worry about young or old. Worry about talent, motivation, integrity, and intelligence. And if you've got somebody who's smart and motivated and has integrity, I would hire them. I don't care.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. We have a few more minutes for questions. You guys have any other questions? Let's get to them.
I'd love to ask a question for the new agents that are watching this right now, some of them from my PC program. And I remember when I first met you in Montclair, New Jersey, as a new agent, my eyes were like this, okay, with the economic model and going, well, I just don't know if I can do any of this, right? I mean, I eventually did in my first year. But what words of wisdom would you share with those brand spanking new agents right now who are saying to themselves, well, that's all good and well. You can move the decimals over. It's not 1 million, it's 100,000. How am I ever going to do this? And I think you kind of answered the question when you answered somebody else's question, but I'd like you to specifically speak to those fresh off the boat new agents.
Sure. Well, fresh off the boat, what you need to do is take the training programs that are laid out for you, get into the productivity program, and I'm sure they'll be running Ignite. And when it's around, you'll take Bold. But I also said this very clearly, understand what your real goal is to get 1 appointment a week. Now, if you're a new agent, I don't care if it's a buyer or a seller. I don't. You need to get 1 appointment a week, however you can get it. And the way you're going to get it is by talking to people. And in today's world, you can talk on the phone, you can talk via text, you can talk via email, you can talk on private messaging, instant messenger. There's a lot of ways to talk, but if you talk to enough people, you will get opportunities. And again, Bold is about that singular issue that if we know what to say and we talk to people, we'll get more business, and you will. And I would tell the new agents this: you've gotten into a business where everyone every single person uses our products. Every single person. Not everybody eats Kentucky Fried Chicken. A bunch of them eat Popeyes. But everybody uses our product. Everybody. And they can rent it or they can own it, but you can monetize the fact that everybody uses it. So all you got to do is understand people will be moving their use to a different spot on a regular basis. And if you get in that flow and get known for being the person that can help them move one way or the other, you'll get into the business. Yep. You bet. You bet. Okay, we're almost done. Any more? And then we're going to have our panelists come in. But any more? We got like 2 minutes. 2 minutes. No more? Well, then it was the perfect number of questions. It ran right to the end here. All right, so I'm going to, I'm not sure, Joe, who's handling the getting the panel on board? There's Mike.
Hey, Gene, how's it going?
It's going, brother. How's it going with you?
I have loved the energy and loved the questions that's happening. I'm smiling and the ahas on being new and the appointments. Excited to be here with you.
Me too. Me too. Absolutely. Leslie, how are you?
Hey, Gene, I'm great. It's an awesome class today.
Well, thank you. It's fun. It's fun. Skylar, how are you?
Great. I'm happy to be here. Again, like Mike, I was listening to some of the questions, and I think everybody's thinking in the right direction.
I think that's a great comment. I think they are. You know, the only unfortunate side of it is I'm speaking to the choir. You know, I mean, the audience for this should be dialed in. That's why they're the audience. You know, I worry about all of our agents who are going, whatever, I don't need that business planning thing. Oh my gosh. The only thing I can say to our fellow KW agents is if you don't pay attention to this, somebody who is paying attention is going to take market share from you just because you think it's not important.
Oh yeah.
And that's the truth. Every one of you, the guests here, have done that. So having said that, Leslie, I'm going to start with you, ladies first. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself briefly, and then we'll go around the horn here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, by the way, Gene. So my name is Leslie Peters. My husband, Andy, and I run the Peters Company in Atlanta, Georgia, and also have 3 market centers here. And Andy is the operating principal for those. So it's Keller Williams all around.
And you've been in business how long now, you and Andy?
Yeah, so I got in 2006. And so 16 years actually this month, Gene.
Pretty good ride, and you got in to experience that.
Exactly.
Which was so much fun. Mike.
I'm Mike Dooley, based in Bentonville, Arkansas. Are an expansionist, which, as you know, is one of the 5 fundamental models, and have 11 businesses that are all mostly real estate vertical. And currently, one of the roles that I hold is a GM for the Northwest Arkansas Market Center, and I've been in for 5 years.
5 years. Well, Mr. Keller says you can be anywhere you want to be in 5 years, and I would use you as exhibit A basically at this point.
Truly appreciate that. Yep.
Well, absolutely. I appreciate you. Skylar, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I'm a husband and wife team as well, Williamson Group here in Austin. Kristen started our business in 2013. I joined her about 3.5 years ago. We own a construction company here in Austin that complements what we do on the real estate side. I own 3 laundromats and then a bunch of investment properties myself.
Absolutely. So you all have multiple things going on. So the first question I'm going to ask is, think back. We have a lot of new agents potentially on this, as well as single agents. So think back to when you were starting off, even though you might have joined your spouse, Skylar. But what was on your mind about business planning? How did you approach it? How did you think about it? Leslie.
I was very entrepreneurial at first and had a huge E2P moment back in 2011 when an assistant team leader broke out the MREA book for us and said, you guys could be a millionaire real estate team. I see it within you. It's 2011. It's the pit of the market. And she tells us to go hire our first assistant. And we did it, and we doubled our business and started following the models. 2 years later, we hit MREA status, and it was completely entrepreneurial, Gene. I mean, I honestly tell people we just worked really hard and got lucky. And in 2014, we fell on our face. And that's the first time we really got committed to coaching and following the systems and models. And I mean, the rest is history. And today, I mean, we're tracking numbers on a daily basis. We're watching conversion rates daily to the minute. And I mean, it's amazing how the tools have just changed our life.
Mike?
I wish mine was as good as that, just so you know, but I'll tell you guys.
No, wait a minute. 5 years, you've done pretty good. I want to hear your mindset going out of the gate here, Mike.
Yeah, and I obviously have been blessed to learn a lot from them and Gene, but I would tell you guys, my first year, I said, you know what? It's like New Year's resolution. Okay, January 1, I'm going to plan the year. So I've been there where you all are. Today, I've already business planned about 3 times already to this point. I felt like it happened in September. And I heard Gary say this. He says all the time, his first thing he does is plan his vacation. We're talking about business here, but I would tell you, I've also heard him say, 1 day a week, you need to be off. 1 month, you need to have 3-day weekend, 1 time a month. And then a quarter, you need to have 1 week off a quarter. Let me tell you, make sure you plan that in your life today, because all of you are learning from Gene and your business is going to take off and it's going to be a rocket. One thing you don't want to happen is burnout, right? You need to make sure you build those systems in today. So me, when I did that January, just so you know, in real estate, you're already in March. You're way behind. So I'm so glad you guys are here today, because you're in October and you're doing this right.
Skylar?
Yeah, I might be the opposite of Leslie. I had to sell my wife for so long to let me join her that the vision was crystal clear what it was going to be like. And the first day that I started full-time in real estate, I had a coach right away. So everything was built with a very crystal clear vision, very purposeful. Like Mike, I mean, we started slow. I did 30 transactions the first year, 83 the second year. And then this year will be our 3rd full year together. And we'll do about 150 units this year. But it was from the very beginning, I had read the book, I'd done all the business planning clinics, all of that. And we started very purposeful from day one. It was the only way I could get her to let me do it.
I don't want to feel like a bad husband, Gene. I need to make sure I tell everyone my wife is on our team too. And she's truly the leader. One aha I had around that is we actually started our S Corp several years ago. Before I wanted to be this boutique hotel owner, and my wife told me no way. This was in 2013. I started our corporation as an S Corp that day, and she was 51% owner. So we were a woman-owned company. I would challenge people as you start to go in this new construction or you're growing your business, even as a single agent, you need to create the foundation properly. And that's been awesome for us because we lead into the conversation, woman-owned opportunity.
Yeah, I can resemble that remark. We've done the same exact thing too. So you bring up a good point here. It's not mentioned in the materials anywhere, but it's a good idea if you're serious about this as a long-term career path to do exactly what Mike's suggesting. I would talk to your financial advisor, your CPA or your accountant, or a business lawyer, but it's worth getting some advice. Not every legal entity is allowable in every state for a real estate agent. And in most states, your name on the license has to reflect the corporate name. So you got to make sure the name's available. If your name is Mike Smith, good luck. You're going to maybe have a problem. That name might be tied up. So it takes a little research and a little digging. But yeah, anyway, form an entity. And it's literally about running a business and having profitability protected as much as you can, as well as some liability protection. All right, so let's talk about growth. So a lot of the people, I got to believe every year, if they come to business planning clinic, they're thinking about a bigger next year than this year. They're not holding firm, they're just growing. So how do you approach and think about growth? Skylar, you've been growing very steadily and very strongly. How do you think about growth?
Well, I don't think about anything but growth. Yeah, I mean, on our team, we call it winning. I want to win every day. No, I heard some of the questions prior to me having the opportunity to speak. We've always led very, very heavy with admin support. So I'm not the team in Austin, Texas that has 30 junior agents working for me. I'm never going to be that team. But I tell you what, if you were to walk my office, you would be extremely impressed by the admin team we have. If you talk to any of my junior agents that are on my team, they're all making a lot of money. And those two things I know if I were to get my wife to go be on a team, she would have to do those two things. And we just focus on that. I won't add another agent unless I know they can make a ton of money and I know they're going to be impressed by our admin team. So the deliberate approach that we've taken is to focus on those two things and then build the lead gen strategy around what our strengths have been. Because Kristen and I started this company, our strengths form the values of our company. So our lead gen is based all around that. And it's part of the career visioning process. If you don't align with our values, you won't be any good in our lead gen process. So, it's a pass. And we pass on more agents than we actually bring onto the team because it's either not a fit motivationally or they're just not going to work in our lead gen system.
Well, I want to pause that thought for 1 minute. Single agents out there, you still need to listen to what he said. He focuses on the admin core that provides high value to any agent who's going to join his business. Now, this is you looking in the mirror, talking to you. Get your admin under control or you will suffer as an agent because of it. You'll be up nights. You'll be running around like crazy because you're not taking care of details. So I don't care if you're a single agent or a team, that's golden advice for any business owner.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Oh.
And I'll just say this, Gene, there's two specific examples in the last 3.5 years that I can say, this is when you know you got it right. One, if you hire an A player that comes in to support you, they will literally push you out of the way. They will tell you to stop. They will be very direct about it because that's the type of personality they are. And you will literally have to let it go or have to let them go. So that's one thing. When you have it right, that's what they do. The second thing is the only agents that I've ever had to let go was because my admin team came and knocked on my door and said they're not good enough. I never even had to make the decision. I just had to be like, well, I need to do this or else I'm going to lose my admin team. And I understand where the value is. They were great people and we felt bad moving on. But, that to me was a very clear, like they're in it to win.
Skylar said something for me that hit me. It said about making money. I was on a Zoom or podcast where Jay Papazon said there's not really a happiness on money, but he said there was a lot of studies done around 75,000 or more. So I would challenge all of you, and just so you know, I read through the 137 pages or whatever it was last night and yesterday. Some phenomenal material that you guys are getting. It's getting better and better and better every day. And I kept going, wow. Just so you know, I've read the MREA 4 times, and every time I read it, I'm in a different place in my life and my business. I go, oh, I never read that before. Let me hone in on that. But that's 75,000 when you grow a team and your admin. A lot of times we say, oh, an admin, maybe your going rate in your city is 32,000 or 40,000 or 45,000. Is how do you get them to 75,000? And this is what I love about Keller Williams is you have profit share. You have other wealth building avenues to help them do that. That's one of your jobs is to get your people, as Skylar said, the admin staff and agents, if you can get them being profitable and making your world bigger, you're all going to win.
Leslie, I think you do something like that, don't you, on your team?
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. When I think of growth, Gene, I really think of the triangle. I think every year it's how do you grow leads? How do you grow in leverage? And how do you grow your listing count? And those to me are the 3 priorities that you're really focusing on when you're putting a GPS together. I used to think, oh my gosh, you just grow by 10 or 20% each year. And that's really not it. It's reading the book Gary had us read in his mastermind group. Both of you probably remember this, Profit First. It's how much money do I truly need to fund my life? And then working backwards. And that the triangle holds true for that.
Absolutely. But in terms of benefits for people you bring onto the team?
Yes. So benefits.
Yeah.
So we are virtual now. So they work in the office 2 days a week, home 3. So I think that's been a big benefit to creating lives worth living and really getting top grading our talent, honestly. We have a 401k plan that we profit share into each year. And we had an employee leave us this year after 7 years. And I looked at her profit share and her 401k, and she had well over $100,000. So that's just incredible for me. Like, that's a life worth living. Vacation, right? Time off with their family, health benefits. You know, people ask me all the time, Jean, can I just pay my admin out of my paycheck? Can I just 1099 my admin? And you're never going to get the quality admin you need if you do that. So putting your admin on a great comp plan is highly important.
Yeah, and I think that's even more crystallized during COVID. I think we have the era of what, the Great Resignation, and the flip side of that is people are much more cautious about taking a position that they can't check off a lot of boxes that'll make them really happy. And I think all of y'all have been talking about that in one way or another, is you got to build something that's a place that nobody would ever want to leave, right? You got to have that same mindset that Gary's had about building a brokerage company. And I think you're all doing that to some level or not.
You know, Gene, it makes me think about Trey Cooper's question that he asked earlier, is where you're finding talent. Hey, Trey, by the way.
Yeah.
He asked where you're finding talent. And I think now is actually an amazing time to find talent. In fact, in my 16 years in this business, I've never found better talent than I'm finding right now. And I think a lot of it is being flexible with people and giving them options, and remote options, and just working together with their salary and their comp plan.
To that point, my wife and my team says that cheesy Mike videos. If you know me or you're on social media with me, I just do a video. Here's who we're looking for. Who do you know? Because think about this. A lot of times, and some people do it, you can do Indeed and LinkedIn and other things, but who knows you better than your sphere of influence and the people in your social media? So I asked them, who wants to be in business with me? We're usually like-minded, a cultural chemistry fit, and that's a win. And I'll tell you a tip we have been doing almost since day one. When I worked in corporate America, I met this great recruiter, and they would woo me and it'd be awesome and I can't wait. And I think ping pong tables and beer pong and all this stuff. And then I get to the office and that never happened. So now I actually let the guests come to our office, come to our weekly meeting, be like you're on the team. Do you like the people? Are you having fun? And it was one of my notes I wrote down. I want to make sure I share with you when I heard the questions earlier. Have fun. This is what I love about this company. In lead generating or wherever you're doing, have fun doing that, because if you're one of those people that can't text or don't want to call or don't enjoy it, stop doing it, right? I read in last night's material, 137 pages, it said pick 4 sources, right, Gene? And to me, have those be fun, ones that you're good at. Remember a job where you were having a good time, it's not a job, right? As Leslie mentioned, life by design.
Yeah. I want to shift gears, and I love all of this conversation. It's just great. I hope everybody's hearing this. If you're going to be building a business out of your career, you better make it the right fit, or you'll have a revolving door, both sides, admin and agent. I want to shift gears and talk about conversions. There were several questions that dealt with the fact that, well, I sell 100% of my listings or whatever. So what about getting at the table from a lead source, actually getting the appointment? Is that easier now? Is it harder? And then when you get at the table with all these disintermediaries offering to, I'll buy it, no strings, no agent, no fees. Tell me what's going on with conversions. Skylar.
Believe it or not, my conversion rate's about the same. It's just different. That's all. It's just different. So the same objections, the same reason why we lost business or won business before is the same reason why we lose or win it now. There's just one more step. Is this a person that wants to meet in person, or do they want to do it virtual? And then we go from there. And we have a way of winning the business either way. Now, once we have a listing, we're still running the same playbook. There's a couple of extra things that we're doing now because of the market, but it's still marketing. It's still how many buyers can we get eyeballs on to get our listing sold, and when we have a lead, follow up on the lead and get them to write a contract. I mean, all of it's pretty similar it creates a pretty similar outcome, but it's just different. That's all for me.
Now, are you sending out a package prior to the appointment, whether it's virtual or live?
Oh yeah. Because what I like to do is get to the appointment where the only thing I have to do is get them to trust me and like me. Everything else should be, plus or minus taken care of. Now, there's a lot of times we show up to the appointment and they haven't looked at anything. We got to go through it all. But ideally, I've set it up with my team and myself through our communication that when we get there, all I got to be is just trustworthy through my market knowledge and my track record, and then likable. And I feel like if I can do those two things 9 times out of 10, we're going to win.
So your package is about educating the consumer about the process they'll go through with you and the nature of the current market. And
That's right.
I guess you're handling objections in advance. All of that's in your package, right? Your pre-list package?
Right. We just overwhelm them with market knowledge and value proposition. That's really clear to see in the package.
New agents, are you listening to this? Hello, you can look smarter than an experienced agent who doesn't send out a package if you send out a well-built package, right? Mike, conversions, what are you seeing?
Yeah, and I would just to the packet, ours is a YouTube video, a value proposition video that we text them ahead of time. And you're more than welcome to R&D, replicate and duplicate. That's our Keller Williams family, right? We help each other. It's on the Dooley Group YouTube. You're more than welcome to look at it. But I have 2 stats when I talk about conversion that I want them to think about as new agents. NAR says 76% of the time they go with the first agent. So in my Gene language, I would say, get out there and meet people, right? I think that's our limiting belief is we go, oh, will they like me? Will they not like me? 76% of the time they're going with the first agent. Also, another conversion I think about is look at the biggest people in your marketplace. So for instance, we're one of the largest teams in Arkansas. We only have a 1.5% market share. So that means 99% of the business is done by somebody else. Do I have some upside? Of course. Also, to your other question about listings, Gene, I wish Gary was asking me today because I sell 100% of my listings. Who doesn't, right?
Yeah. Leslie, conversions.
Yeah, so our conversions are down this year, and I think it's really market driven. We're watching them closely, track them every single day, and we're not at 70%. And what we're finding, Gene, is when we go to the appointment, they're really excited. And most of our sellers have to find somewhere to buy. Well, guess what? If we can't find them the perfect house to make them move, then we're not ever going to get to actually list that property. So whereas our appointment goal has been completely on point this year, in fact, we've had more appointments than I would even hope. What we're finding is our conversions down, so that finding the motivated has become challenging. And on the buy side as well, you may write 3 offers on average before you get an accepted contract. So you're showing the time you're showing these people is a lot longer than it has been in the past. So where we may have thought of 90 days, it may be longer than that before you can find the buyers the home. So we're really focused on the conversions. Although I will tell you, Gene, one rate that I have been so impressed with this year that's really fallen, and I watch weekly, is our termination rate has dropped considerably, and only 13% of our contracts have terminated this year. And we usually plan on about a 20% termination rate. And so going into next year, we're really focused on, let's not use 70% for KW. Let's use what we're experiencing right now in our local market. And that's going to mean more appointments for our agents.
And to what do you attribute that reality that your conversions on deals falling apart has gone in your favor? Has it been more attention or what?
Yeah, I honestly think buyers are so happy when they just get the house. They win out amongst so many offers. They're willing to take it no matter what. I mean, structural problems, sign me up, right? I mean, it's unbelievable how deals have held together this year.
So shifting gears again here, 50-50 in your business? Are y'all equal sellers, buyers? Where are you at? Where are you at, Mike?
I'm about 62% buyers. So obviously a little heavier than I'd like to be. I'd love to be at that 50-50. It is a little more challenging, but just a real quick thing that Leslie was talking about that I heard James Shaw talk about, I want to share with the folks is don't anymore. And I love this aha. It was like mind blowing when I heard it. When someone says, I'm not going to pay 400,000 for that house, you actually never will pay 400,000 for that house. If you lived in that same house for 30 years, you're actually going to pay like 575 for that house. And that was a huge aha for me. Ask them deeper questions. What do you want the mortgage payment to be? What are you comfortable with? But most people don't live in a house for 30 years. They live in it on average 7 to 10, right? Is our analytics. That was an aha to me when someone says, okay, where do I move to if I want to sell my house? Just something for you to ask your motivated client. See what their motivation. Are you a 1 out of 10? Why are you moving, right? And usually, Gene, I've heard you say this, it's a life occurrence. You're adding a child, right? It's a divorce, whatever it may be. So going deeper to that motivation. But I love that mortgage payment piece is really huge. But we're over indexing to buyers. I also heard him say this, which was loud and clear. Do your marketing to listings. It should, if you read the MREA, you should get 2 buyers, right? So drive it to your listings. I know most recently my wife had a lake property and I always go, okay, how many buyers did you get from that? She got 3 from that. Okay, how are we getting those looking at homes immediately? And I think that's important, is getting them in your ecosystem, getting them with Keller Mortgage, Keller Covered, all those things, because that's in your world today, which is exciting.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing to that, and that is get 1 seller and 1 buyer off your listing. If you get 2 buyers, fine, but you need to understand not only are the buyers looking for your listing, whoever's next in that neighborhood is watching every listing that hits the market. So if you understand that, you can easily get a seller and you can get a buyer at minimum off every listing. And if you do that, even if the listing doesn't sell, you'll never lose money on a listing that doesn't sell. Never. You know, you'll always make money. Skylar, what about you?
Yeah, we're closer to 70% buyer. It's still a young business, I think.
Yeah.
So we're working on that. And my 30% of my listings, to some extent, I've manufactured those listings with my spec home build business. You know, I just woke up one day, you know, understanding what Mike was talking about. You know, I wanted to be in a certain area of Austin and I wanted those buyers. And the best way that I could come up with it was to go hire a guy that knew how to build homes and build a company there that I could always have 12 to 15 luxury listings in the area I wanted to be in at all times. And we get our best leads off of those new construction homes. You know, most of them are unrepresented. I can just farm them right out to my junior agents and they're all $1 million buyers. So it's been really productive for us. But yeah, we still, the majority of our sphere referral and the majority of our open house and web leads, they're all buyers. Most of them are. And even our past clients who want to buy a new house, you know, to some extent, we're coaching them into just leasing those properties out. You know, if they can afford to go buy a property and just lease their current one out, you know, we coach them into that. So there's a portion of lost opportunity there, but we genuinely feel like we're doing the right thing for them.
I want to grab that train of thought and run with it. I've been, from the very beginning today, I've been pounding this idea about go get more listings starting for January 1. So since y'all are saying more buy sides than list sides, this is your problem too. So what is your thinking about that? I know a lot of agents are doing texting to their sphere. I know they're doing golden letters to strangers. I know they're doing things they weren't doing 3 years ago to try to get sellers. So what is your thinking overall about trying to get sellers in general? Leslie.
Yeah, so we are 65-35 this year, and it's the worst we've been in years. And I attribute it to our sellers in our pipeline that meet with us. They haven't found that dream house that they want to move to next. And we can't tackle that. So we're sending at least 200 golden letters every single week, all handwritten. I farmed it out over the summer while everybody was really busy, and I had, someone that just had free time and wanted to do it. And now we're doing it during lead generation as a team, 2 days a week, and everybody's responsible for 20 hand addressed letters. And it just helps the whole team. And we're actually searching in neighborhoods for buyers. We're finding we're getting a couple calls out of every 100 we send. So we've already sold $1.5 million listing this year off of a golden letter. We're doing golden text to our database and having a lot of success with that. And once again, it's just it's creating a pipeline of buyers where we're just searching for inventory. In fact, Jean, I've spent most of my day before your class started, networking with agents via text, doing everything I can to just strum up business for our buyers.
Mike, listings?
This is tactical, but I want to give you guys one thing hopefully you can take away from is in most places in the United States, the leaves are going to change. So it's a really good time. One thing we do on social media is if you're thinking about listing in Q4 or Q1, let us come out, take the pictures today for your listing. And we highly recommend that. We get a good amount of leads from doing that. And you get in conversation and say, well, why are you waiting? As you know, I don't have a crystal ball. And one of the stats that I say all the time is the research expects the interest rate's going to be 3.73 at the end of next year. And I say, I don't have a crystal ball, but I know what I know today. I can get you top dollar. And here's what it looks like from our equity analysis on your home. We have changed that language. I used to say CMA and all these other things that clients had no idea what the heck you're talking about. So today we say equity analysis, right? Meet the client where they are. We have a lot of acronyms in this business. So make sure you know what you're saying to the client. And that's a aha, right? We're all learning every day. I just started equity analysis about 3 months ago. So just so you know, us three that are on here, we're learning from each other. I'm going, I love that, Leslie. Great. Skylar, great. Just so you know, growth minded. I know Jean's told you this. Learn is the only thing you can do to get better every day.
That's right. Skylar, seller focus.
Yeah, I mean, we have web ads and things like that, but the two things, and maybe I'm just reiterating what Leslie and Mike have said. We do the golden letter. I drive around in my target neighborhood and basically I say, I want to sell that house. And I text that address to my team and they add it to the list that we're handwriting every month. So I'm actually cherry picking the homes that I either want to buy or sell. And then we cater the handwritten letter to that. So we're doing those letters. We probably send out 200 a month. So we're not at the level of, the larger team, but we're still doing that. And the return's pretty good. I also have a young lady that circle prospects all day long, every day. And she's really good at it and actually enjoys doing it, which blows my mind. I used to do it and I was good at it, but I used to do it and it would wear me out. But we've always had results from that. We get in the conversation with people and I can't tell you how many times we've had a great conversation with someone, didn't sell their house, but they just introduced us to a neighbor and we sold their house. So they actually produced the referral for us. So circle prospecting and the letters are what we have the highest return on.
Jean, I would just add back to Skylar real fast. Even most people here don't have a building company. You're not where Skylar is today. There's a way to replicate some of the things that he's doing. And I just want to plant a seed. If there's a lot or land or dirt in your marketplace, could you get with a builder and actually list a home? It's something we've done with great frequency. We have Bella Vista here and lots are pretty inexpensive. So you get that sweet house that someone can build a spec 275, 300, and you list that home. And obviously it's a new construction home. Those are leads and ways to do that. So even if you don't have a building company, this is the way to do that, to be an early adoption to working your way to your building company like Skylar.
Sure, you just got to list the lot and then tell the seller you're going to sell it two ways, as dirt and as a house. Yep, totally. Yep, I've done a lot of that too. All right, unfortunately, I could talk to y'all forever. We're running out of time. The last message I want to leave with everyone in the audience is from you guys, and I want it to be maybe your best tips. I hate to say something corny, but your best tip, your best thought in this market. But I do want to finish with my thought first, which is I hope you heard their discussions about how hard it is to actually get the listing count they want. Do not be dismayed. Every single closed deal in the MLS had a list side. So the listings are out there, but they also all said, if you keep talking to people, you'll find those opportunities. So you've got to work hard and you got to work smart, but you can beat your competition if you don't give up. So, ladies and gentlemen, give them your best tips. Leslie, we'll start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite quotes is, it's easier to become a success than to sustain a success. And I think that is so true. And it's all in that going from entrepreneurial to purposeful. And I think so many of us in real estate are on this hamster wheel, right? And it's just the next deal, the next deal, the next deal. And just remember that a sustainable business is actually built on systems. So if you are doing something more than once, create a system for it. I mean, even a canned email, right? If you're sending the same email more than one time, new agents, there's a canned email for that. Track your numbers. And, Gary just says businesses go south when there's no commitment to a number. And that's all we're focusing on these 2 days is, what's your number?
I love that. Thank you so much, Leslie. Skylar?
Well, since just on the business front, I graduated from West Point. I served in the military as an officer in the infantry for 6 years. I fought in Iraq and Afghanistan. I plan as if my life's on the line. And when you think that way and you consider the most probable and the most dangerous courses of action, and you lead your people like you're leading troops, you get real clear about your vision. And when your vision, what it looks like when you're done, when that's crystal clear, then you can go produce your plan. And the plan is what motivates people to stay on the vision, to be excited about the vision and actually get up and work every day. And that goes for you too. So don't just end here and not create that plan. If you write it the right way, when you wake up tomorrow, you go find task 1 underneath priority 1 in pursuit of your goal, and you go crush that. And it really is that simple. And just taking a step back from the business planning's perspective, I do have multiple businesses. I got it from the Quantum Leap class. So if you haven't taken that, you might consider it. But the path of money, understanding what passive and active investing is, and then making that a part of your vision for the future. I am a man with a master plan. So everything in my life is intentional. And I heard this from Gary that, I'm not interested in being average. And I'm not interested in being an average father, husband, business owner, nothing. I'm not interested in creating an average plan. And not only have I created my plan that I think the team is excited about, but I hold my agents accountable. I make them show me their plan. It's incorporated into ours, but they have to show me theirs too. So we're doing this up and down the organization.
I love that, Skylar. Every bit of it. Mike?
Thank you for your service. That's pretty awesome. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Hard to go last after that, thank you. I had a couple things, and one of them is I heard this on a podcast and it really hit me hard. Think about it.
You listen to a lot of podcasts, don't you?
Oh yeah. Well, I'm learning every day. I want to get better and smarter, right? I'm not that smart of a guy. I got to learn from others, right?
Yeah.
As it said, a GPS. When you start with a GPS, you type in the address that you're going to. Where's the GPS start from? Where you are. It doesn't care about where you were yesterday or last week or a year ago. Where are you today? And you guys are in this training and you're making the right decision. To me, I wholeheartedly believe Gary said you can be anywhere you want to be in 5 years. And we've been blessed to do that. When did that happen for me where it really went boom? And I'll tell you, last year we gave $60,000 to charity. And this year we're going to give $100,000 to charity. If you do something like that in your life, and just so you know, hopefully that's just scratching the surface and we can 10X and 100X that gets me energized to say I'm not making enough profit or enough money because I can't give more, right? So I would tell you, get that thing in your life that energizes you and juices you. And then the last thing I would just add is I think most people watch $1 Million Listing and all these things, and they want to work 1 day a month. Hopefully you realize from this panel, we are working at it every day. And I show up to the office like I have a career job I do, right? 8 a.m., I'm the first person there. I would challenge you every day, you got to grind.
Love it. And I do agree with you. It's nothing but work, but it's not complicated, but it is work if you want to really be highly successful. And I think you all should all you listeners out there, not the panelists, they're already there. I think you all should hear Skylar's message about really intentional. He was worried about just staying alive, but the flip side of that is you should care about your life worth living potential the same way he cares about that. Don't waste your time on this planet, on this earth. Don't waste it. Build a powerful plan and succeed at a high level. We're going to have final ahas and any cues that are left out there, any questions that are left out there. But thank you, panelists. I really appreciate y'all. Y'all were awesome. I do appreciate it. All right, gang. Final comments or questions? What do you got? Anything left out there?
Yes, Jean, I've got thanks to the panel for their just generosity and transparency, and a question about, as you, right? Because that happens. That's what we should be doing, whether they're investments or staging companies, professional services. What I'm wondering is any best practices about the type of business entities or structures that we should be thinking about. I mean, I heard Mike talk about the S Corp. I've gotten advice about creating LLCs with S Corp pass-throughs. I don't know what the best practice is. Just curious.
Well, that's why I suggested you need to talk to your CPA or accountant or a business lawyer about what entity to form. I don't think anybody should just give you a one-off and say, oh, you should do this. You need to know what you're talking about, and things change. Our original entity was a PA, a professional association, but that was the best advice at the time. We're talking 30 years ago, girl. Today, it would not be that. So I would tell you to go talk to a professional about that. Now, as far as what businesses, Gary has talked about this constantly. You should ideally open a business that one of your own businesses would feed, right? And it doesn't have to be the total source of business, but if you open something that you know is going to make some money right away, that business is already down the road further than a lot of brand new businesses where somebody hopes they're going to sell something, right? So that's why a lot of us, my wife and I, got into doing construction and doing investments and building because it's related to what we were doing. I was always showing property early on going, man, I'd like to buy this investment property. This is a great property, but I didn't. But sooner or later, it led to an investment business. And then we got into the title business because we were selling homes and closing at title companies all the time. And I started thinking, maybe we should have one of these since we're always in them all the time, right? So what you said, staging companies, et cetera, transaction management businesses, there's lots of stuff out there. Our industry feeds a lot of other businesses, a lot. We feed Home Depot, we feed lawn and garden, we feed pool companies, we feed a ton of businesses. Yep.
Thanks, Jean.
Anything else, ladies and gentlemen? Ahas or questions, final questions?
I have a question, Jean. This might be an accounting question again, but so when you have like your business account and you have your expenses, I wonder, should you have an operating account and just a business account? You follow? So, or should you just have one account with your revenue and your expenses? Or should that just be an accounting question?
Well, it is an accounting question, but generally speaking, I think for a single agent business or a small team business, you should have at least two accounts. And one would be the operating account, money in, money out, pay bills out, right? It gets funded. And the other would be a reserve account where it's money. Normally, when you launch a business, you would put money into a bank account to start that business. And that's not the operating account. That's the money that you would feed to the operating account to get the doors open. And then when your company made a profit, you would take the profit and put it back into the business. And if it wasn't needed, then you do a distribution back into that reserve account. It's also known as a capital account. So I'd have those two accounts and build up those reserves so that if you ever have hard times, you got money to fall back on. And if you don't have reserves and you get hard times, that's when businesses go under, right?
Got it. Okay, that's the answer to my question. Thank you.
All right, absolutely. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, anything else? Yeah, I see a comment there. Yep, Agent Financials is a great class to explain all of that. That's absolutely right. Anything else? Okay, I see a bunch of nice comments. It's really great. I see a connection in there for the golden letter. There's information on that you can click on. Okay, so if there is nothing else, I'm going to wrap up by saying this is just day one. So you need to come back tomorrow and we're going to dig into a lot more detail, particularly around the lead generation plan. And for those of you that are thinking about growing, we're also going to, do a lot of discussion about hiring or not hiring and who to hire and when to hire. We're going to cover a lot of that. If you are thinking about joining a team, I think you would benefit by hearing that discussion, because your entry point might not be to build a team, but to join a team. And there is nothing but good about leverage. And when you think about joining a team, it's actually getting leverage in your life. So we'll have a vigorous conversation tomorrow applicable to new agents, growth agents, teams, groups, you name it. So I thank you all for being here today, and I will see you at the same time tomorrow. Any final comments from staff? Am I missing something? Is there a cue we need to give them? Joe? I'm not sure who's monitoring right now. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you later. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, Jane.
See you later.